Hey everyone, you're listening to the official podcast of 4playernetwork.com. Check us out at that address for everything you need to know about our community, monthly giveaways, and nightly live streams. You can even support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4player. And last but not least, you can catch the live recordings of these podcasts every single Thursday night on our Twitch channel. We hope to see you there. Enjoy.
Wait, you gave it 4 stars. You did not say it was
I personally think Snyder Cut is a pretty good movie, but it is shocking considering how much I hated the theatrical cut of Justice League.
That the theatrical cut of Justice League is like a 4 out of 10, and Snyder Cut is like a 5 out of 10.
See, I think it's a much bigger. I would go as far as saying like a 3 out of 10 for the theatrical cut and like a 6 or 7 out of 10 for the Snyder cut.
The thing about Zack Snyder is that he has a very singular vision. He's the kind of guy that would look at a character like Lex Luthor and say, oh, a dude who would blow up a senator to advance his evil machinations. I get that. But my Lex Luthor would also mail her a jar of his own urine right before doing that. And I respect that.
Is this the podcast? Can that be?
I mean, Sonji has a point that apparently you ranked Zack Snyder's Justice League higher than Star Wars and New Hope.
Yeah.
First of all,
Halloween.
Absolutely formative to 21st century cinema.
Let me just say, this is the podcast. There's no intro this week. We're just rolling right into this. This is the show.
Be on the podcast, Nick. Your shame does not have to be on the podcast.
No, here's the thing. Here's the problem with like using things like Letterbox. Everybody if anybody follows you on Letterbox, they start looking at like what you're rating things. They all of a sudden assume you're rating everything in comparison to every other thing that you're rating. It's like I can have completely different opinions about Star Wars: A New Hope. And have
are you the person they're talking about? You gave
I gave it like 3 stars.
You gave Zack Snyder. What did you give A New Hope?
Like 3 stars. That's what I'm saying. I don't like, dude. You're also missing the part where like I watched Star Wars: A New Hope
I think the part you're missing, Nick, is the fact that I don't necessarily know if you should be rating something minutes after watching it if you really enjoyed it, because I think you're riding a high. And like you're like, oh, I had such a great time. Versus you saw Star Wars, 20 years ago, and it's not exactly, of course I like Star Wars, of course, but you're not on that Star Wars high. You're on a Zack Snyder's Justice League high, and you're going to rate it super high, I guess.
That's absolutely fair, but also I'm also not taking this Letterbox thing as serious as apparently you guys.
Do you have to provide a rating?
No, I literally was like digging around.
It's like he chose this violence.
He could have just given it a thumbs up. He couldn't just.
It just became it's not an option. It's actual, like they have a star rating system. Have you ever seen Letterboxd?
No,
before?
He's like, they didn't even say the words A New Hope at any time during the movie. 3 stars.
Look, man,
you make a good point. I should knock off another star.
Excited to hear about Monster Hunter. This is not the start of our podcast, is it, Nick? Is it?
I guess. I mean,
you want the world to know this, Nick?
I'm Brad.
You want all 40 of our listeners to hear this?
We have more than 40.
Yeah,
well,
you're right.
Oh,
we might later.
Yeah, an additional 40 to the people who are here now.
Oh man, I don't know. Do you want me to do an actual intro? Hey guys, welcome to the show. This is episode 675, April 1st, 2021. Hey,
God help us, April 1st.
You know that Star Wars: New Hope rating I gave on Letterboxd, that was just a April Fool's joke.
You're just
jokes on you.
Breezing over John Carpenter's Halloween, which not only did you rate lower than this newer Halloween movie that came out, which was okay.
Whoa. I rated John Carpenter's the original Halloween on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
Okay,
lower
first of all,
what did he give it?
Okay, guys, first of all, I don't really like Brad sitting here stalking me on Letterboxd while we're recording the podcast.
Stalk? You posted the link to your Letterboxd on Twitter.
You know what? I'll fucking say it. The original Halloween, pretty good movie. That's it. Yeah. It is like a solid 3 out of 5.
Okay, I was like 3 out of 10. Damn.
That movie is kind of fucking boring.
And you know what?
You guys are terrible.
You're terrible. You're a prisoner of the orthodoxy of classic John Carpenter.
I consider myself a big fan of Halloween as a series, but I'm in Krispy's boat on this. When that first movie is pretty slow.
You're not in Krispy's boat. You're driving a separate dumb boat, okay? You're just going in the same dumb direction.
Boat.
I'm going through his list right now on Letterbox.
Okay, so are y'all just gonna sprinkle
I'm not
shameful
saying.
things for my Letterbox for the rest of this
I
podcast?
could pull it up if
maybe.
you like. Those are the only two I could remember.
Maybe this will teach you that social media is evil.
You know, at some point, no. Here's the thing about Letterbox. At some point, so when I first started using Letterbox, whatever, and at the beginning, it's kind of like any new social media thing where it's like, here's some friends, whatever. It's like, here, why don't you go through and just rate some movies that you've seen? And it's like I haven't watched this movie in like 6 years, but I've seen it and I kind of know how I feel about it. Sure, here's a rating.
You feel that The Rundown is better than the original Star Wars film?
Okay. First of all, I did not rate The Rundown. What even is The Rundown?
Oh, you don't.
With The Rock?
Yeah, that was when he was making his
is that the
first
Sean William Scott
into Hollywood acting.
Is that the one with Sean William Scott and
yes.
What's his face, Christopher Walken?
That was the
Rosario
first time
Dawson
that a lot of America got to know. That is the first time that a lot of America got to know Dwayne
I think I
Johnson
might.
and not just The Rock.
Are we going to talk about Monster Hunter Rise or not, bitches? You know what? Fine. Hold on. Pump the brakes for a second. This podcast went off the rails. This podcast went off the rails hardcore. Nolan just walked away from his computer. I haven't even finished introducing everybody. Brad randomly said, "Hey, I'm here." Hello, Brad.
Hi.
Look, Nolan has the rundown. You know what? That's a fine movie. I
knew it. I knew you think it's better than Star Wars.
It's pretty good.
I've never thought about The Rundown in comparison to Star Wars, nor would I ever have.
He's like a hitman, but he really wants to be a chef. It's endearing.
Yes, that's true. That's the synopsis of that movie. The funny thing is, the reason I knew where it was is because I have a box of DVDs I'm getting rid of, and it's in that box.
Oh.
What he actually meant to say is he has a box full of his favorite movies, and that's definitely where he found it. Anyways, Nolan, hello.
Right next to Stark Raving Mad. How's it going, Nick?
Pretty good. Chris Davis, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay, but you're not, because you gave Rogue One 4 stars versus New Hope, which you gave 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
But A New Hope doesn't make sense without Rogue One. You got to have Rogue One to set up
Rogue One. They say A New Hope.
Yeah.
You know what? Pump the brakes for a second, bitch.
Oh, yeah.
I think. So, hold on. Hold
He's forming his defense right now.
No. Star Wars at some point has become something that none of us should be taking this seriously, right? Like at some point it was like this really well-made trilogy, and now it is just kind of fucking like all over the place, right? And it's like,
I mean, not necessarily.
When I rate half these movies, I'm just thinking about legitimately how much fun did I just have watching that.
It was 2 good movies, and then it was kind of all over the place.
Fair enough. That is fair. But you know what? I had more fun watching Rogue One than watching A New Hope. Even though, maybe objectively speaking, if I was really taking Letterboxd that seriously, objectively speaking, maybe, yeah, sure, A New Hope is a better film. But I would probably still prefer to rewatch Rogue One, because I think it is more fun to watch.
Because he loves
I will state that fact, and I will walk out of this room.
Darth Vader, the lightsaber goes brrr.
If it wasn't already painfully obvious, Krispy's here as well.
Hey, what's up? Is this really the intro?
Yeah,
of the podcast? Okay, cool.
No, I mean intro. We've been talking for 13 minutes now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
This is really isn't gonna like that.
Nick gave Enola Holmes a higher rating than Star Wars.
Nick saw Enola Holmes?
I did. It's good. It's a good movie. Guys, stop comparing everything I've rated to A New Hope. Go fuck yourself.
It should be, instead of stars, it should be how many A New Hopes did you give this movie?
You know, just for shits and giggles, I'm going to name this. I don't even know what we're going to talk about in depth in this episode yet, other than Monster Hunter Rise. But I'm going to, no matter what we do, this episode is going to just be called Grandma's Peach Tea. Boom, done. It's decided.
We didn't make that reference during the actual
we did.
podcast.
Sure we did. Who gives a shit, Brad? I'm feeling loosey goosey. Whatever. We'll just
the sound test is in the podcast now.
Fuck it, that's a good idea, Krispy. I'll just throw in the sound test.
Oh man.
God. This episode's gonna be wild. We're gonna talk about Monster Hunter Rise tonight because that's all any of us have been playing. But before we do that, because we're gonna spend a while diving deep into Monster Hunter Rise. Chris Davis, last night. Sorry, I want to give you a chance to talk before you switch off and take a nap.
Yeah.
Last night you played King Kong.
Yeah, the Peter Jackson game from 2005.
Monster Hunter of a different sort.
That was my first. What do you call it? What when you get like 1,000
sexual experience?
Oh. Ooh, yeah. Gamer score?
They didn't have like a platinum on Xbox. It was just you got like 100 or 1,000 gamer score.
Yeah,
that was really
that was my first Xbox 360 platinum trophy.
Mm-hmm.
Before
all you had to do was just play through the game, and that was it.
Before the full potential of trophies had been realized.
I believe they were called Chivos.
Yeah, exactly. So Chris Davis, how's King Kong hold up? Was it everything you? Did it satiate your King Kong boner while you wait to watch Godzilla versus King Kong? Sorry, that came out weird because we're talking
like Jesus.
King Kong boner.
Are you sure?
I don't have a thing for giant apes. I'm just saying.
The King Kong boner episode.
For a second, I forgot we were talking about a giant ape.
Glass of the Empire State Building's windows.
Chris Davis's penis could climb the Empire State Building.
Man,
in a single bound.
This is gonna be a show.
Yeah,
this is gonna be a show. Sorry, Chris Davis.
The game holds up, I think, a little better than people would expect. I was playing the 360 version, which, by the way, when you play it on the newer hardware, like the load times are just like that. You don't even have time to read what's on the screen before it loads the next level.
I would certainly hope so.
But yeah, some of the mechanics are still pretty good, like how there is no HUD to the game. It just, if you want to find out something, you press a button. Like your character will say how much ammo you have on backup, or you can have conversations with people by just looking at them and pressing A.
It was so ahead of its time. It's immersive.
I mean, honestly, some of those mechanics, like, you had never saw them again. But
I'll be honest,
which is unfortunate.
I remember that was kind of my first taste of, like, at the time, next gen gameplay. That was my launch night. Like, I got my 360, went home and played King Kong, and I was like, this is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was one of the 3 launch titles that you would get. You would get King Kong, you would get Call of Duty 2, and you would get Perfect Dark Zero. You didn't know about Perfect Dark Zero at the time, but it was one of the ones you wanted.
You left out Cameo.
I mean, you could buy Cameo, but
I did buy
you
Cameo.
could also
I did not buy
play
Call
the
of Duty
things.
2.
Yeah, I got Cameo too, but still. I mean, it was all right.
Did you play all the way through it on the stream already? Like,
it was like 4 or 5 hours. It's not a long game by any stretch of the imagination. And there's a lot of repetitive stuff going on in the game. A lot of searching for levers and pushing things to open gates and holding off dinosaurs and insects and stuff like that in order to get through to an objective.
But it had cool atmosphere, and that's all.
It had a lot of good atmosphere. It's really good about that. The Kong levels are still probably the best part of the game.
You know what's funny? I'm thinking about this now that you mentioned that, and I'm like, all of my memories of playing King Kong for the 360, I don't even remember King Kong being in it. I remember fighting a T-Rex. I remember the centipedes and bugs and stuff. I don't remember King Kong being
the T-Rex moments are like, they're excellent moments for that game. But like fighting as Kong and doing like the platforming,
look, man, it's King Kong to you Godzilla loving fanboy. Okay.
Well, Carl Dunham adds King to Kong. Weekend. Everyone on the island calls him Kong. Okay.
He's a monarch. Show him his proper respect.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's kind of interesting the fact that you take a look at this game and some of the mechanics you see in there bleed it into other Ubisoft games later on. Like there's a mechanic to where you have to get fire to burn bushes, which organically spreads, and that's look at Far Cry 2. That came out a couple years later.
It's more biblically spreading.
I do remember that being really impressive at the time, though. That was really fun.
And then the Kong's platforming and running along walls and jumping and things like that. Look at the Prince of Persia that came out in 2008. Like it's basically the same fucking thing.
Wait, Prince of Persia came out before Sands of Time.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about like that reboot they did a few years later.
Yeah, the one that was just called Prince of Persia.
Yeah. The one that was all about the platforming and you couldn't fail.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Weird,
I think when Nick asked you about it, I don't think he really wanted a book report, but I'm glad you're enjoying it. You enjoyed it. It was only like 4 hours long, right?
Yeah, it's a short game. It's got a lot of atmosphere. It's fun. It's good.
I'm gonna go back and watch that Peter Jackson movie. All right.
You play with the black and white film filter? Or did you do it?
There was that. I didn't have that turned on. There's also a mirror mode, which oh boy, that totally changes everything.
That's the only way you can make a game that linear feel different with each.
Pretty much,
the second playthrough. All right, let's dig into the biggin here.
The veritable monster.
Is it Heavensward? Is that the big one?
No.
Word on the street is Krispy thinks his thoughts on Final Fantasy XIV are too good for this podcast.
That's not true. I was just going to respectfully save it for 4-player minute.
Okay, fine.
I didn't want to waste everyone's time with something they obviously weren't interested in.
Oh, fuck. Here it is. God damn you. Okay. So,
Monster Hunter.
This is the first time I'll have anything of substance to contribute to a Monster Hunter discussion. We're all, with the exception of Chris Davis, we're all playing.
Weirdly enough.
Monster Hunter Rise.
What do you mean by that?
Because it's a big kaiju hunting game. Like I thought that would be.
Does it
like
count?
your shit?
Well, two things. Number one, I haven't turned on my Switch since I beat Mario Odyssey.
Hey, this is a good reason. This is a good reason to.
And number two, this is a game that requires like 20 minutes of prep to go on a 45-minute boss battle.
So,
if it takes you 20 minutes to prep.
Yeah, if you're fucking Nick. No.
Let me just say.
I just don't have that kind of patience.
This is okay. Chris Davis. God, first of all, how dare you, Crispy? Okay, so
you broke him.
It was just too funny.
I know. So this is effectively my first Monster Hunter game. This is going to be my gateway into Monster Hunter. I'm eager to play more of this. I've played about 10 hours of this, maybe 9, closer to 9. Some of us here have played a lot more than that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's accurate.
But I do want to say this, and I've always kind of had the same opinion or hesitation about playing Monster Hunter that Chris Davis is having right now, and I did until Tuesday probably, and at that point I was already like 4 or 5 hours sunk into the game, but I was doing things very inefficiently. Brad was kind enough to record like literally a 20-minute video of him just giving me tips, and I watched it. And you know what? It took my prep time before a hunt from like 30 minutes down to like 5 minutes. I'm going in and out. Like at this point, I'm going from hunt to hunt to hunt to hunt, and I like now I kind of know what I'm doing. I don't know if that's going to like, and at some point tonight, I do want to have a conversation about how this game compares to Monster Hunter World, because I'm pretty sure if I follow this path that I'm on now, I will eventually be like, okay, I finished Rise. I'm finally ready to play World. Because obviously there's a lot of differences.
There is,
but maybe I should. I don't know where we want to start with this because this is a big one.
Well, can I say that I feel like there's a bit of a misnomer because I listen to podcasts and stuff, and I've heard people talk about this, and people are like, "Oh, it's like a mix of the old and new." But I feel like people are saying that because it's on a handheld. And this is definitely in terms of like mechanics and all the quality of life improvements they made in World. This is a continuation of. This is a follow up to World. This is not like old Monster Hunter is this very, very different beast. Not only does this have all the quality of life stuff from World, this has a lot more quality of life stuff to the point where like this is definitely where did Nick go?
He still has his headphones on, Brad. You're fine.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
This is definitely like the friendliest, easiest place to start Monster Hunter right now.
So Brad, so hold on. So let's dig into that a bit. Yeah. So Nick, while you could not afford Brad, you only got a 20-minute recording. I had Brad to myself live for about 2 hours.
Yeah,
sexy
playing this game. And so that was actually a lot of we talked quite a bit about this game, and one of the things that came out of that event was Brad telling me a lot about Monster Hunter Rise versus older Monster Hunter, World specifically, obviously, because that's the most recent one. But that's kind of actually one of the things that scares me, Brad, is I've just heard so much about how many quality of life improvements exist in this game that I would be afraid to go back and play World.
But couldn't the same thing have been said about World when that game came out compared to even to older Monster Hunter?
But I think like World was a much bigger jump ahead than this one was, though.
Yeah. Yeah, because old Monster Hunter was like very prickly, and World made a lot of like nice improvements. I don't know. I feel like it's easier to say it was a big jump because it just felt so new and different, and it was on a console and it was pretty and everything now, right? And there was a lot of quality of life stuff. But I'll say this, Nolan, if you get to the point where you're like playing a ton of this and adept at this, it's not going to be hard to go back to World. It'll be hard to go back to pre-World, and there'll be some stuff that you'll need to get used to, but getting good at any Monster Hunter game gives you sort of like the vocabulary to honestly play any Monster Hunter game because they're fairly similar games in their core, right? You're always going to be, there's always going to be potions and mega potions and slow clunky weapons and that sort of is similar between all Monster Hunter games, and that's honestly the stuff that's hardest to kind of wrap your mind around at first. So you're going to be missing some stuff that's in Rise. There's actually quite a bit of like streamlining that happened in Rise, believe it or not, from World.
Sure.
But yeah, like the older Monster Hunter games, I mean, they didn't even have damage numbers. Adding damage numbers to World was so huge because when you're fighting something in Monster Hunter, I mean, it's like a whole thing, right? It's a whole thing. And if you're bad at it and you don't know what you're doing, you're not using your items, you're not using the environment, you're not using, in this one, the other monsters and stuff, it's going to take you a long time. Imagine not being able to see how much damage you're doing. You just feel like you're doing fucking nothing. You just feel like a goddamn idiot, in a hunt that takes half an hour and you're not even seeing how much damage you're doing. So adding that.
Wait, are damage numbers a new thing for the series?
It was new in World. It was new in World.
Oh my God.
But there's a lot of stuff here that you're going to miss. Like, for example, I think one of the most important new mechanics in this game is the wire bug recovery, where if you get knocked on your ass all the time in Monster Hunter, right? But in this one, you can like recover out of it quickly in any direction you want, and you'll automatically have your weapon unsheathed. And
I think that was maybe the biggest, like maybe the biggest tip that Brad gave me, and he actually said that the other night when I was on my stream, and I didn't really know what he was talking about, and then I did it pretty much anybody talks about doing anything like technical in like a fighting game, or Monster Hunter has always been very intimidating to me because it seemed like people who had maybe a history with like doing like in fighting games and doing really technical combat systems with like combos and shit. I felt like we're gonna have a much easier time getting into something like Monster Hunter. So when he was talking about doing the quick recovery, I instantly was like, oh god, I don't think I'll be able to pull that off. But like it literally is a like hold left shoulder and tap B in any direction you want. Like as soon as you like, there's like maybe a 2-second window, like a full 2-second window to do that when you get knocked in your ass, and it's so easy, and it literally keeps the pace of the combat flowing.
Yeah,
like it never stops.
You don't have to like get up, pull out, heal up, pull out your weapon again, and go and approach the enemy. You could just fly right back towards the enemy, do an aerial attack, and you're just fucking back in it, right? It's fucking great. But there's a lot of other things that I sort of realized that maybe people are taking for granted. That one of the new things in this game is that your hunter talks a lot more, and they'll do call outs for like really big deadly attacks.
Yeah, like, oh, here comes a big one, stuff like that. Yeah.
Anytime they say here comes a big one, that's the monster usually doing its attack that can one shot you, or if you don't wire bug out of it, the follow up, it might one shot you, at least when you get to high rank. So like that's a huge quality of life thing. And I think it's going to make this game a lot easier to get into. Just even stuff around like eating, right? Even in World, you had to like eat before a hunt, right? But like figuring out how to activate different skills was kind of like obtuse in that game. And when you'd faint, when you cart, Monster Hunter players call it, in a fight, you have to go eat again. But if you had eaten too recently, like you can't eat again, and so your stats are a lot lower when you go back into the fight. Here, your health and stamina doesn't drop like that, like it did in World, and it's just and you're picking up all these little like permanent upgrades to your health and stamina as you're like exploring the map and stuff. That it's just. Like I said, it might make Monster Hunter easier, but and the village quests are definitely really easy. But I've been getting my ass knocked around even by monsters that I had no trouble with in World, which is nice. It's nice to see a monster that's well designed but was kind of easy in World get a tune up in this. Like Toby Kadachi is a really cool monster with a really cool looking armor, but he honestly wasn't too much trouble once you played enough World. But here he's scary. He's almost as scary as something like a Zenogre, which is crazy. Maybe not that scary, but yeah, I will say though, there's a thing that World does that this game doesn't do. So I can understand why people might like World, why even like somebody like you, Nick, might prefer World to this, and that World felt like a bigger production overall, like in terms of its story, like the way it told that story, which admittedly it wasn't a great story, and a lot of those characters were very forgettable, right? But there was a lot of
story.
There was a lot of build up to like a new monster, to encountering a new monster, right? You go into a map and it's all like, all right, let's find its tracks, let's hunt it down. And when you see the monster in the field, there was like a cool cutscene in the map, right? And maybe, at the end of the day, you're fighting a Barroth. Doesn't matter which game it is, right? But like, it felt like more of a thing in World. And here, maybe it's because, I play a lot of Monster Hunter, or maybe just because like those cinematic qualities aren't there. But, World definitely feels like,
I think this is a big reason why I'm personally excited to be playing Rise as kind of like my gateway, because while it does have a lot of those quality of life improvements, there are certain things like what you just said, like the scope and the scale and
but you got to understand, like the buildup was there and that was exciting, but the stuff you were actually doing in between actually fighting monsters, when you're like running around trying to like gather things for like special investigations and shit or whatever, honestly, that shit it wasn't fun. It was just it added.
Would you say it's fun in this?
Well, here you don't really have to do that. I mean, again, another quality of life thing. You open up your map, you just see where the monsters are. Before you had
I kind of don't like that, to be honest. Like that's one thing I'm
might
finding.
be able to turn that off, actually.
Yeah, I wonder if anybody in chat knows we could turn that off, because part of the magic to me, like it's called Monster Hunter. You would think there would be more emphasis on the actual hunting part of it, not just the act of actually beating it to a pulp, but like tracking it.
But I think that goes into like, the preparation and making sure you're outfitted and making sure, in this one, I think more than ever, you have to use the environment. Like you're in the previous one, ones, there was like endemic life all around the map, and you can like kind of catch it and stuff. It was just a thing you can do. But now you're like picking up all these like poison toads and shit, and you're like using them in fights. And once you get into the harder fights, you'll realize like, dude, I need to use this shit. I'm getting my ass kicked.
I'm still very much at a point where I don't really need to use anything outside of like meat and health potions.
That'll change. They'll get to the point. See,
will that change in village quests, or will that not really become a thing until I start doing hub quests and late game stuff?
Okay, so here is the one thing about Rise that is like old Monster Hunters that was changed in World. One thing they did go back to, and that's that in the old Monster Hunter games and now in Rise, there is the village quest line, which is sort of like the start of your single player story that you just play through. You can only play through it by yourself. And it's a lot easier than when you get to the hub quests. And the hub quests are you're fighting most of the same monsters plus new ones that are going to show up, not in the village quest line, but they're a lot harder, and you could do them multiplayer, right? But the thing is,
have to do the multiplayer?
Huh?
You don't have to.
No. You don't have to. I haven't done one multiplayer hunt. Actually, I did one multiplayer rampage, but
I do think it's worth mentioning. I think we haven't decided definitively, I think, on this yet, but I think like probably on the week of the 15th, I think we might end up doing a co-op night, like a Monster Hunter night instead of a podcast.
I think that would be cool. Just make sure. I think that's a couple of weeks. Everyone should probably try to get to high rank first, because honestly, I feel like that's where
it gets difficult.
That's where it gets difficult. The village quest is tuned like really easy, more so than any Monster Hunter game I've ever played or tried. And it's sort of like, I guess, kind of getting you, and again, another reason it's very newcomer friendly, just sort of get used to the mechanics, introduce you to a lot of the monsters. But I was sort of feeling as I was playing the village quest, like, I don't want to do, I started like doing the minimum amount to unlock the next tier, because there were certain monsters I didn't want to encounter for the first time until they were hard. Because I just sort of steamrolled everything in the village quests, including monsters that I never even fought before, which was kind of a bummer. So as soon as I was able to get into high rank, I just jumped right into it.
What dictates whether you're ready to, or I guess what?
Okay, so
how do you know you're in high rank?
Whenever you have the stars, you have to complete X number of missions in that rank to unlock the next rank.
Yeah.
And Brad was just saying that I think high rank, I don't know what you would call high rank, Brad, what, like 5 stars? 6?
Well, it's a little weird. So the star system is separate depending on the rank. There's low rank and then there's high rank. All of the village quests, that's low rank, but there's also some low rank. There's also low rank in the hub. And those are harder than the village. Like I said, the village is tuned kind of easy. But going up through low rank in the hub, you have to kind of blow through that to get to high rank. And you'll know when you get to high rank, because it gets a lot harder, and armor is different and stuff. Like, you'll start getting new sets of armor for everything that you kill, and they have like they introduce new systems. Like, you could start equipping decorations on your equipment, which gives you more skills, and even those armor sets will have more skills than their low rank versions. The weapons will be stronger. But one of the things they do in this game that's kind of cool is that if you're just blasting through the village, eventually they'll start introducing these things called special tests or exams, or like license tests, right? Where it'll be a hunt versus like 3 monsters, right? And they'll be like, go kill all 3 of those monsters. Like, I killed Magnamalo, right? Who's the flagship monster. Shortly after that, I got a license test to kill Magnamalo and 2 other monsters on the same hunt. And as soon as I did that, it sort of broke the ceiling for it was basically it was allowing me to advance ahead in the hub without actually having to do all those low rank hub quests. So you can go through the village, and if you pass those license tests, you can jump right into high rank and skipping the low rank hub. But
and the low rank hub is maybe the less interesting stuff, right?
Harder than the village. But again, you kind of want to get to, like, I don't want to say real Monster Hunter, but like right now, if you're unlocking armor sets and stuff to get you through the village, which even I did, I love fucking around. One of my reasons my hour count's so high is because even in like the easier content, I'm still unlocking armor sets because that's the kind of shit I like to do in games. But a lot of that stuff is not gonna matter because as soon as you get to high rank, everything gets a lot harder, and you're gonna get the harder versions of those monsters, and they'll have better sets, and those are the ones that you make once and you use for the rest of the game. So some like older Monster Hunter players will probably like sprint until they get to high rank, but take your time, especially like Nolan and Nick. If you're new to Monster Hunter, I don't mean to talk shit by saying they're easy, but even you, Nolan and Nick, y'all played the demo. Those monsters were a lot harder than the village monsters in the village quests because they're tuned differently, and because you couldn't really, they gave you a base like armor set or whatever. So if you're looking for that kind of challenge, it's there. You just got to get the high rank, and it's pretty rewarding. I'm glad I finally got there.
Nolan, what weapon are you using primarily, or are you at the point where you're switching about?
I'm trying to bounce around a bit. Like a lot of people early on recommended me using the longsword. A lot of people gave it good recommendations, saying it's good for newcomers, and I'll agree. I did enjoy my time with it, but I kind of did want to start branching out and trying different things, just to kind of get a feel for what else is out there. I tried the hunting horn a bit because I used that a lot in the demo. I did the dual blades for a couple hunts.
That's what I'm rolling with right now. But I'm approaching the point where I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready to start trying other things.
Have you used the longsword, Nick?
Dude, I haven't really touched anything outside of dual blades, and I don't even remember what I used in the demo. But I remember in the demo feeling like I contributed nothing because I had no idea what I was doing.
Once you get good with the longsword, it is a pretty good weapon. I'm debating going back to it.
I'm curious with the bow and arrow personally, but
I used that quite a bit in the demo. I don't know if I want to use bow and arrow solo. Personally,
I understand that about. I feel that way about the bow guns and stuff too. I kind of like like for a first playthrough using a melee weapon.
Yeah, so I would feel, Nick, if we were playing this a bunch together, I think bow would be great to stand on the sidelines. Not that you're not contributing; it's just you're contributing in a different way. You're getting constant pop like shots off on the monster while standing a little bit farther back, but that also means that you can add all the status effects to the arrows, so you can put it to sleep, you can paralyze it, do all this stuff. That's my 2 cents. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are some bow mains out there, and more power to them.
I mean, I definitely want to get to a point.
Bow, it is an extremely fun weapon, but it's like one of those weapons you should watch a guide for because there's a lot to
Probably.
it.
I mean, honestly, you should watch a guide for all of them. But the most recent weapon I've started using, and I probably used it for about 5 hunts now, is the gun lance. I've been trying that out. It's difficult, but it can be pretty fucking satisfying too.
Were you watching the footage earlier?
Yeah.
So you eventually get this skill called Blast Dash, and this
I was watching that.
This wasn't in World, but they did have it in GU. If you swap out. So one of the new things in this game is called
skill something.
You have Silkbind moves, and you have switch skills where you can swap out some skills. You could swap out one of your Silkbind moves, but there's also other moves that sort of like change the way a weapon behaves and the flow of a weapon. And one of those is for gun lance. So you have this thing called charged shelling because you can shoot shells. It's a gun lance. You poke, you slash, and you shoot because it's a gun lance. And one of your things, you could charge your shells and they do more damage. Well, fuck that. You can swap out your charged shelling, and now when you charge a shell, he fucking flips the lance behind him and shoots himself forward on a rocket, which is great because the gun lance is like notoriously slow, like it's immobile.
Yeah, right? You're very sluggish and that's kind of one of the things I wanted to bring up, Nick, was I think one of the cool things about the longsword compared to, because I've played a lot with longsword, now I've played a decent amount with gun lance, is the mobility is a lot higher with the longsword. Especially I think you have a bit of a farther reach almost, but you almost have moves that allow you to move a little bit more. That I think are like all the sheathing abilities, and I think gun lance is taking some getting used to, just because like Brad was saying, I feel like I move a lot slower, and like I have to almost like line myself up a little bit better for attacks.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, some people find like the slow, clunky stuff like really rewarding because it's very deliberate and you feel rewarded for kind of really learning the monsters, you know, move set,
Yeah,
right? It's
I mean,
patterns. Like I recognize that tell. I'm going to get out of the way, but I'm not just going to get out of the way. I'm going to roll back in because now I know I have an opening. That sort of thing.
because as a dual blade user right now, it does feel very much like, and maybe this is also kind of a byproduct of being primarily in the village quest at the moment, and this is still pretty early, so it's probably a lot quite easy compared to the higher rank stuff. But like, I do feel like as satisfying as much as I'm enjoying the battles with the large monsters, it does feel very much kind of like I'm just running in and slashing the shit out of it until
Yeah.
it dies.
Yeah, so one of the thing with like the slower weapons is like if you play a hammer, you'll be like knocking the enemy out cold, like you'll be knocking them the fuck onto the ground, you know, because
Yeah.
they do KO damage, right? So like that's something, or like if you're using a great sword, you're like really good at like lining up a shot and just fucking slicing their tail off, right? That's the kind of thing you don't really get with the dual blades, but you know, dual blades have mobility, and if you use them well, they're one of the most powerful weapons in the game. Um, Getting good at dual blades is kind of getting good at like maximizing your damage. But one of the cool things about all the weapons in this game, which is again, I feel like another quality of life thing, is that almost every weapon in the game has like some sort of counter or move with invincibility or a move with a guard point, where before it was like you had like the lance had stuff like that, the charge blade had stuff like that, but not a lot else. Now even the fucking hammer has a guard point, believe it or not. And again, it gives you more freedom to kind of play how you want to play, which is great, right? Like um and if you want to play a little more defensively, you can practice. Even the dual blades has a move, like I think that one of its starting silkbind moves is like a counter where if you do the silkbind move into the enemy as they're attacking, you'll like fucking slice them up and appear on like the other side, kind of. And you take no damage, which is cool. Like those kind of moves didn't. Well, they existed in GU, but in various forms. It's a little weird, and maybe another reason this game gets compared to specifically Generations is because that introduced like all these like moves and styles, and a lot of that stuff is either like from that game or like is very spiritually similar to a lot of the stuff in that game. Like, you know, like the blast dash with the gun lance. It wasn't in World, but it existed before. And but again, it makes it so I know I like I'm playing gun lance, but I'm rarely getting bored because there's always, you know, more stuff to try. I could switch out some skills. I can try new silkbind moves in ways I haven't before, and I just feel like there's a lot to do. Where in World, to some extent, you kind of learn your weapon, right? There's not too much to, you know, if you're looking for more complexity or if you're looking to mix things up, you just go try another weapon, right? Now you can try your weapon in a different way, kind of, right? Which is
gotcha.
Yeah.
Krispy, are you still playing? Are you still playing Iceborne primarily? I know you were really getting heavy into that, or did you switch to Rise as soon as it came out?
No, I mean I'm still playing both of them.
Damn.
I've been playing
Rise, maining and Rise. Or how much Rise have you played?
I'm not as far as you guys because I've basically just been playing Rise when I'm like alone. And I've been working through village quests. I'm not at high rank yet though.
I'm only in rank or a 3-star. Is 3-star rank, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of going in order.
I'm at 3-star. So yeah, I guess I'm probably about where Nick is. But
have y'all done
Rise,
the Rampage stuff yet?
I have not done the Rampage. I've just been hearing a lot of people complain about it, but
it's very.
I don't even know what a Rampage is.
So okay,
like a tower defense mode.
Hold on, let's not switch gears quite yet.
Yeah, let's Krispy finish.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. In Rise, I've been playing a lot of dual blades and greatsword. I actually did a couple hunts with Gunlance too, just because I was going really hard on Gunlance in World, and then wanted to see some of the new stuff in Rise with it, which I really like, but I don't have the skill that Brad was talking about, the charge dash for it yet. So I was kind of like, I don't know, I was like, well, whatever. So I went back to stuff I was more familiar with. But yeah, but yeah.
So Rampage is sort of like, okay. So I feel like every Monster Hunter has like a thing sort of like this. World had the Zora Magdaros fights,
quests, yeah.
which are not fun. They kind of sucked, right? And I guess when they were making Rise, they're like, all right, well, for that the time where we kind of have like the more set PC fights where we kind of change things up, where you're jumping on cannons and stuff. Let's just kind of make it a whole thing, right? And I feel like they spent a lot of time working on this mode, and now it's like a whole thing, right? Where they expect players who are playing a lot of Monster Hunter to also be doing a lot of rampages. And people don't have a lot of fond things to say, but I'm guessing a lot of those people probably just did one or two rampages, like the tutorial rampage and maybe one other, because I've played the game for dozens of hours already, and I've only done 2 rampages. They're the only 2 that have been required. One of those was multiplayer. So I still kind of
like, based on the conversation we had today, it seemed like you were playing more rampages. I guess it was just you mentioning that the only multiplayer you wanted to do was rampages.
I have one more rampage to do, I think, in high rank.
What exactly is a rampage?
Okay, so a rampage is like it's like a tower defense where you're setting up monsters
turrets
in, right? You're setting up turrets. Some of them you can man, some of them are automated, and some of the monsters are like trying to destroy various gates that you're trying to keep them from destroying. Some of the monsters are attacking you. Some of the monsters are attacking your defenses, right? And it's like this whole thing of like, there's a half a dozen monsters on screen and you're just spamming your turrets and stuff, but like they put a lot of work into it. Like it's surprisingly deep, and and a lot of people have been talking shit, but at a first glance you kind of just want to monster hunt. You don't want to do this mode that they tell you need to do, right?
Right.
But they do get harder, and I'm thinking that maybe when you're playing with other people, you can get good at it. Maybe it could be a lot of fun, but it's very like almost arcadey, right? Like there's so many monsters coming, you're shooting them, they're retreating. I kind of wish it was just more of a slight evolution of the arena or something, because the arena has always had stuff like the Dragonator, right? Like in World, you can drop rocks, you can shoot big spikes in the enemy into the enemy, right? So you can you can get on like a cannon or a ballista or whatever, and you can use that in the fight if you want. I wish it was this mode, but instead of like dozens of enemies coming like arcade style, it was just like 3 enemies on this wave, and you actually got to fucking fight them, right? And 4 enemies on this phase, and you got to fucking fight them, instead of like a whole bunch just kind of going in. Like I said, I wish it was just sort of an evolution of some of the stuff the arena is doing, and I think it would be a lot better. But there are some cool ideas here, right? There's like a counter signal, right, where once that goes off, it's like this huge gong, and all the hunters, their damage just skyrockets. So it's time for you to hop off the ballistas and shit and get down in the fucking in the shit in the trenches,
get your hands dirty,
and just go to town, right? So they definitely like thought about some stuff. There's even like a forge where you can spend time like heating the fire, and that reduces the cooldown of all of the stuff, right? So it's definitely stuff that seems like it's designed to be multiplayer, and you do one hunt by yourself, and it's a tutorial, and that's awkward and dumb, and you feel like you shouldn't be playing.
It's honestly a bad tutorial. Like I was kind of confused, and it was kind of frustrating. At the end of the day, like I think I kind of enjoy it a bit. And I could see myself playing them a little more, but I just think it was a bad tutorial.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Like this is a game where I feel like I've benefited 1,000 times more from like detailed, YouTube videos, or like just explanations from like that short video Brad did just showing me how to like loadouts worked. I was like, I never would have figured this out from reading the basic ass tutorials.
I mean,
even though it technically it gives you the correct information, it tells you how to do it and stuff. Like
it doesn't.
It just gives you a shit ton of text.
Yeah, it's like I'm not gonna remember half the shit I just read 2 seconds after I close this menu. So like watching Brad like go through menus and talk about it while actually doing things was like super helpful.
You got to kind of want it, like Monster Hunter is not a game that's going to like hold your hand. Those text pop-ups are not a good way to teach someone how to play such a complex game, and it sucks. And I can understand if someone doesn't want to get into Monster Hunter because it takes a little bit of extra effort, or a friend who's willing to kind of help you out. But that's sort of always been the community around Monster Hunter. So like those people are out there, just like a lot of people kind of welcomed me into open arms in Final Fantasy XIV, despite me being, very critical of it at first. A lot of people are going to be willing to help you out. A new player help you out, get into Monster Hunter. Because
I mean, we definitely have a very active channel for Monster Hunter Rise already in Discord. So yeah, there's no doubt about that.
I will say, special like thumbs up highlight. I love it. This game's not as cinematic as World, sure, but the way they do like the monster intros,
it's cool
before you go into a mission. Those are really fucking cool. And I recommend. I'm sure a lot of us are playing in English, but if you have played in Japanese, it's like a whole different vibe. I recommend like doing it in Japanese because it's very like.
Can you change the language just on the cinematics?
I think you gotta do it from the title screen, but it's worth it. It's a very fast loading game, which is beautiful, right? Like you can tell that. As I've been playing this game, I've been very like impressed. Like, oh, the loads are so fast. In World, they were so long, and like, how did they do this, right? But like these dudes have been making Monster Hunter as a handheld series for a very long time. Like before World, it was the last time it was on console was the fucking PS2, right? So they're good at making like very busy handheld games.
And I think they're very good at finding the right balance, because like World obviously feels bigger. It feels like it has a whole different scale because the hardware allows it. And you could tell that they're very, very, very hyper aware of like the limitations of the hardware going into it, because like they've just made so many smart decisions as far as like how to scale things down to best fit the hardware without necessarily making it feel like a smaller experience. It's hard to explain because it definitely still feels.
Let's be clear. Not only, I mean, you say it's scaled down, but these are like by far the most complex maps that they've ever had in the series. The fact that you can like climb on everything and there's all this verticality, like World is nice to look at, and some of those maps are very, very large, but they don't have the kind of freedom to kind of go where you want like this game does. So
and a lot of that has to do with obviously probably the biggest mechanical addition to this game, which we haven't even really talked much about yet, which is the wire bug, which
all over the place.
I was struggling to kind of get the hang of it during the demo, but I definitely feel like I've gotten the grip on it now, and especially when you combine that with how quick and easy it is to like get on your Palamute and run around, and then like run up walls and then fling yourself off of it, and you're kind of keeping an eye on how many actual wire bugs you have access to, which can obviously change how far you can go or how high you can go. Trying to find spots to use the great wire bugs, which is cool. It gives you further incentive to go back and explore all these maps, knowing that there's all these different hidden
like secrets everywhere, little relics and stuff, and
the relics are cool. But like finding all the little lilies where you can plant them.
You can find hidden camps.
It's cool that like you're finding all of these places where you can use the great wire bugs, but once you find them, like that's permanently unlocked. So every time you come back there now, it's there, and it makes traversing the world even more fun or more freeing,
more efficient,
I guess.
For one thing.
One of the things about the wire bugs that I think are so brilliant in combat as well is that because it's like this universal meter that recharges over time, and different skills have different recharges, some of them are slower. It's like you constantly have to like weigh. It's kind of like in a fighting game where you use your meter in a lot of different ways, right? Where it's like, okay, I have one wire bug left. Do I want to go for like I have an opening? Do I want to go for a big move? If I miss it, then all of a sudden I can't do a wire bug recovery and I might die. Or should I save it and use it kind of more defensively? Or should I use it just for some movement to get on the other side, like the monster, or climb up this ledge or whatever? And having to like make those decisions in the heat of the moment is what makes it like super exciting. And I definitely get those moments where I kind of overreach of like, fuck it, I missed a wire bug move, but I want to hit it. I'm going for it again. and I hit it, but then the monster retaliates and I can't recover, and I just get fucking destroyed.
One of the most like infuriating things about this game is like hitboxes and stuff, and like just doing some big attack and like just coming down with an inch. Not even, you don't miss by a football field, you miss by an inch, but clearly you missed. And it's like, well, there goes that wire bug, there goes that move. Now I've put some damage on my weapon, and now I'm open for an attack. Like it's so frustrating when you mess
or
up.
locking yourself into an animation for a major attack, but being like 2 feet to the left and being like, now I got to just watch this whole animation pan out, or I can like roll out of it. But either way, I just completely whiffed this. Fuck.
I will say that like there's so many weapon skills and stuff in this game that if you want a little bit more movement, or if you want the hitboxes to be a little more forgiving, there's skills like evade window, evade extender, which can really change the way like your weapon feels in terms of movement and hitboxes and just in overall feel. And so I use gun lance, but I use evade extender level 3, and it's tuned so powerful in this game. In World, it was kind of like a useless skill. No one would really
is that a
use
skill
that,
that's
right?
tied to a specific armor set?
It's on, so that skill is on various armor sets, right? But like if you equip 3 pieces of level 1, you're going to have the level 3 evade extender. You go so fucking far now that I'm playing these weapons completely differently than I did before, because I feel very nimble and evasive with the gun lance before, but when I tried it in World, it was just like a high risk, high reward. I'm going to land this big slow attack, or I'm going to eat shit. Now it's like I'm playing like a very hit and run, like charge shelling style, where I'm jet rocketing across the field, going for my strike, doing my burst, and then back hopping my evade extender. With my back hop, I go so far that I've set up so much space between me and the enemy that I'm ready to just jump back in with another charged shell. It's so fucking great.
I was trying to remember, because when I was streaming the other night, I was like, I don't know when it was exactly, but there was some point where I was like, oh dear. Yep, I can feel the hooks. I can feel like my enthusiasm for the game immediately rising, and I couldn't remember what it was. And I think it was because Krispy, you were explaining something about how the skills work going from level 1, 2, and 3. And
because it was like you have to stack the skills by equipping different pieces of armor that have the same skill to level that skill up.
Yeah,
and you were like, it was after a hunt, you were looking at the blacksmith, looking at the different skill sets. And then you were like, oh, and I can craft new armor now, and I have new skill. Like, yeah.
The moment I realized that I could craft this helm and craft this like belt, and they had the same skill, but when combined it makes level 2, I was like, oh, I get it. Oh no.
Oh no. Then it clicked. Then he got the bug.
I was waiting for the bug, and I was like, I'm teetering on the edge, but I think that's kind of what pushed it over. And I was like, shit.
Well, I mean, that's a good motivation for this game, because it's all about fucking crafting new shit, man.
I'm into it.
If you're not sitting there feeling like, I'm kind of bored of my armor, I want a new piece of armor, Like, what are you even doing? What are you even doing?
That weapon and armor lust is a real thing, dude. I've been crafting so much shit.
I think, I mean, you know me, like, there's certain things in RPGs that I really like, but I don't think I could honestly ever say like spending a lot of time in menus or like just focusing on like numbers was ever really my thing. But like crafting and armor and stuff, I do like that a lot. And I think that was kind of the key component that was like, okay, this excites me enough that I think I can overlook some of the things that I'm not as into in this game. But at the same time, just little tips, like little things. Like I was so like, how did I was when I was first playing this, and I didn't understand how item loadouts worked. Like, oh my God. Brad showing me how to use the item chest to set up an item loadout and then just like literally autofill everything with like one button press. I was like, whole like this, I look at this game totally different now. It used to feel like a slog, and now it's like nothing.
It's a slog until you get it
set up. And you did really
good. Like, set up.
Chris Davis was joking earlier. 30 minutes to set up a hunt and 50 minutes to find things. I can get back into a hunt in like 30 seconds after a hunt, And
that is not even an exaggeration, because that's exactly how I felt. I felt the same as Chris Davis until I understood how loadouts worked.
It's so easy, right? You go accept a quest, go restore your loadout, go eat, boom, you're into another mission.
Here's a question: can you do the same kind of shit with loadouts in World?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Dude, like here's the thing about World.
Well,
There's gonna be some stuff
World has
you're gonna be so blown away, especially if you play this on PS5 or a PC, by how beautiful everything is, and you're gonna be seeing monsters that you now know, right? Like Rathian was like the first monster that I think they ever designed or whatever. It's been around since the first game.
Wait, which one?
As well. But you're gonna see him in World for the first time. You're gonna be like, oh, this is fucking beautiful.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy, man. The biomes in World are insane, and they're huge and they feel huge, but they don't feel as open as Rise, like Brad was saying, because you don't have like the wire bug to just like go wherever the fuck you want. But they are still arranged in a really interesting way, there's all these like little paths and like hole, like sometimes you just jump in a big fucking hole in the ground. Like you can do quests that'll set up like these rope ladders or like rope systems in some of the levels, so you're like fucking like in the Coral Highlands you'll just like be fucking zip lining across like hundreds of feet of like this weird coral forest. Like it's really cool. It's a really it's a really vibrant, and it feels really alive. Like there's just so much shit around you at any given moment, and like you're watching all these monsters move around and getting into fights with one another. Like World is definitely worth going back to for sure.
If only for the Coral Highlands.
The Coral Highlands are so cool
biomes that I've ever seen.
It is. I mean, honestly, because you've talked a little bit about Monster Hunter. Like, obviously, this has a rich history of being on older platforms, and World kind of was like World kind of reinvigorated interest in the series, maybe in the West. I'm not entirely sure if that's an accurate statement, but like it really made it kind of a mainstream success here in the West.
Accurate. It blew up. If you look at the sales numbers of all the Monster Hunter titles throughout history, this is the only one that ever broke like 100,000 units or something in the West, and it's like this game, like World, sold more units overall than like a few of the others combined. Like,
it's the best-selling Capcom game of all time.
Yeah, I think I'm comfortable, like just as a kind of a new Monster Hunter player, I feel comfortable knowing that like I play Rise, I'll obviously get a shit ton of playtime out of that, and then I go back and play World. And I feel like I don't necessarily feel like I need to go back and play a lot of the older stuff. I feel like that's a really great wealth of content there already. By the time I get through that, we'll probably know about the next Monster Hunter World, which is obviously a thing that's going to happen. No, imagine Monster Hunter World on PS5 with a wire bug.
World 2 is going to be a thing, right? Because I feel like the way they make the maps in this game, they have to bring that to World.
Well, and what's interesting too is like if you look at Iceborne, there is a lot of stuff in Iceborne that it was very obvious that they were like playing around with ideas that would become main features in Rise. Yeah, like the Tail Raiders and the Tail Raiders Raider Ride. It's so stupid. But and like the Clutch Claw shit is very like proto Wirebug stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I would not be surprised if Monster Hunter World 2 looks a little more like Rise than, than Iceborne.
Either way, it's exciting. It's exciting. I get it now. I'm into it.
Make sure you're sharpening while on your dog. You can call him.
I am. That's another thing. That's another thing you mentioned.
That was a real fucking eureka moment for me in this game of being like, there's like. It's always like difficult trying to find an opening to just like duck away from the fight and like drink a potion real quick or sharpen real quick if you need to. But like having the dog there to just be like, anytime I need to use an item, I'm just going to hop on the dog and circle the monster and like do whatever I need to do. And there's like, I'm mobile enough that there's not a lot he can do about it. That has changed the way I play this game. Like it's amazing. It's amazing that the game is still just throwing things out there. It's like, oh hey, like use these tools in interesting ways.
You want to hear an example of how far this series has come? In old Monster Hunter games, when you drink a potion, you drink it and they'd have to flex.
Yeah.
And there'd be this flex animation.
Oh, have you
drink a potion?
Have you seen
and eat shit?
Have you seen the dongo? There's a dongo that might be a reference to that. Like if you do the show off 2 emote, which is like you going like and you hold it for a second, you get an attack boost.
That's a really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah. There's a lot.
So I was kind of curious. We had talked about it. I think a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if we talked about it last week, but how Monster Hunter World sold 16 million units.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Their Capcom's 10th highest selling game is Monster Hunter Freedom 3 with 4.9.
Pretty much all Japan.
Yeah, this past weekend, Monster Hunter Rise sold 1.3 million units just this weekend.
And sold out, and like a lot of people are buying it digitally. That's just retail.
Yeah. So they were. I was reading this Nintendo website or whatever. They were saying that the second highest, and that 1.3 million was just in Japan. I haven't found U.S. numbers.
Oh my!
It sold 1.3 million units in Japan. Super Mario 3D World Bowser's Fury that same weekend sold 37 million copies, or sorry, 37,000 copies, bringing its total up to like 600,000.
You know,
that's total sales.
Probably
versus Monster Hunter Rise, which was 1.3 in the weekend. 1.3.
You know, if you dig deep enough and you infer certain things from the data, I feel like it's probably safe to say that like a lot of the experimentation we've been seeing from Capcom and like other franchises like Resident Evil is probably largely being funded by the success of Monster Hunter. I feel like at this point, which you know what,
it did say that the Switch sales were up this weekend with in Japan once again. The only numbers I have 200,000 Switches and 77,000 Switch Lights were sold this weekend.
My God, Brad, did you end up going digital?
Shortage of Switches?
What'd you say, Nick?
Did you end up going digital?
Yeah, I went digital just because, you know, if I'm gonna ever play another Switch game, then I'd have to take out the Monster Hunter cart, and I never want to have to do that. So.
He always wants to have access to Monster Hunter.
I mean, right now I'm playing 2 Switch games at once. I'm playing this and Final Fantasy XII, and it is kind of a pain in the ass swapping back and forth because I'm very frequently
God. Changing carts in this day of digital gaming. It's like you guys sound like a bunch of children. You sound like a bunch of kids.
I mean, we are on a podcast about video games.
I gotta take the card out of the machine.
I will say that they've not sold, but Capcom has shipped 4 million units of the game.
Those will sell.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they probably will.
Well, you know.
Hey, good for Monster Hunter though. It deserves it.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe now we'll start seeing Monster Hunter stuff at Universal Studios.
Yeah.
In America and not just in Japan.
Those monster intros felt very like old Universal monster movie or something.
Yeah,
I love that.
They have like the film grain and everything. It's very
like to your point, Chris,
peering through the clouds.
To your point, Chris, what Universal Studios ride do you kill in order to turn it into a Monster Hunter thing?
Oh my God, there's so many great rides you could kill. There's the fucking, there's the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. There's the Fast and the Furious ride. There's the King Kong ride.
Wait a second, back up. There's
a Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon ride at Universal Studios Florida.
That's gotta be the most troll thing ever.
Absolutely. Dude, at this point, I'd say just fucking tear down Harry Potter World and turn it into Monster Hunter World.
Don't you do it?
Could you imagine, Nick, whenever you go to get the food, they bring it out the spit and they're like...
You know, I can go to a Monster Hunter themed theme park and not feel like I'm contributing financially to transphobia, you know?
That is true. But I will say
Monster
this.
Hunter has its own issues.
The dragon, they could just replace the dragon on top of Gringotts Bank and
they won't let you wear girl armor
with a fucking what is the Rathlos?
With a Rathlos? Yeah. Oh my God. It would be, they could do that overnight. It wouldn't be anything.
like just replace the roller coaster. Like you go, because there's a ride inside of Gringotts Bank, which is really awesome, by the way. But like literally, you get on the ride in Gringotts Bank, and then just swap all the shit out inside with like Monster Hunter shit. And people are like, what is this?
Oh, and then all the goblins could be Wyverians, and like it's perfect. And think about the food, man. Like I know people are really into butterbeer, and okay, fine, but like imagine a Monster Hunter like restaurant done up right, where it's like serving real like food from the game.
Wouldn't it be a Brazilian steakhouse then?
But I know they have like a little bar in Japan, but it's like a pop-up, isn't it?
No, I think they have an actual cafe right now going on. But
real quick question.
I guess it's a pop-up. I want to know what a dongo tastes like. I don't think you can buy those anywhere.
I think dongo is supposed to be similar to mochi. It's just like rice. It's that rice dough.
But is it supposed to be sweet? Because it makes it look like it's supposed to be a sweet treat. So that's one thing I wanted to ask real quickly, because one of the things, back from what I've seen of World before I really knew what the fuck I was doing, I remember playing a little bit and seeing I was like, oh, I love all these like cooking animations. The food looks so delicious. And this one, I do love it here too, but like I don't really know what this dongo stuff is, and I'm like, does that ever change, or is it just?
I don't know. I mean, if you go to the,
am I gonna be watching that same cooking animation for the rest of this game?
Well, hold out for the expansion, because when Iceborne came to World, they added a whole new canteen with a new chef, like this like cute little grandma chef that makes food, and her food is like as good as the stuff in World was. Her food looks 10 times better. It's incredible. She's got like little like cheesy casseroles and like dripping meats and stuff. It's so fuck. I'm hungry.
All right, I think this is probably a good place to stop and take a break. We've talked about Monster Hunter Rise for a while. I think we're all pretty positive on it. So we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we got some questions to answer, maybe a couple more quick mentions game wise. We'll answer some questions, and of course we'll do our 4-player minutes. So if you're watching us live, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, y'all. Video games.
I will accept that as the intro to this segment. Man, let me tell you, if you're listening to this podcast at home, we stopped recording the first segment like an hour ago. And we've spent the last 45 minutes analyzing my Letterbox account. And apparently comparing everything I've ever rated to Star Wars A New Hope, which I stand by. Anyways.
Okay. So I've also been playing Valheim.
How's Valheim going?
Are you in triple digit hours yet?
Fuck no. What are you talking about?
How many stars do you give it, Nolan?
So Jaeger and I beat the final boss as of now in the game. Yagalith or something like that. I can't remember exactly what his name was. We did a bunch of stuff. Finally beat him. The funny thing is, when we fought the third boss, Bone Mass, we got our asses handed to us in that game, just like completely. We fought him once, and I think we were able to take down like 1/10 of his health, and we gave up. We fought him a second time, and I think we got him down to like maybe 2/3 health left and gave up. And then the third time we finally beat him. But I think because of that, we went into this like final boss so like over prepared that we just like destroyed him. We handed... Yeah, really, very much so, which was just kind of funny.
So does this mean you're putting it down for now until they update more, or are y'all going to keep going?
Exactly. So we've kind of decided that we're, for at least the time being, going to put it down for a bit. Wait for more stuff to come out. Obviously, there's plenty of stuff. One of the things, so when the boss died, we got his trophy, his head, and then we got I think his name's Yagalith. I think Yagalith like placeholder item was the name of the item. Because the developer hasn't even determined what item it's going to drop yet. But yeah, we had come a long way since we first started. I mean, we had multiple outposts, multiple bases kind of set up, multiple like large ship vessels that we would use. And I do think that it's probably a good idea to wait for the game to be in its final release before putting too many more hours into it.
I still remember trying to build a roof with the flooring.
Yep.
And not having any idea how that worked.
You're just building the second floor.
There you go.
True.
Basically.
All right. So you're gonna revisit that maybe down the road when there's been some updates.
That's the plan.
I have a quick mention because last week I talked briefly about Mundaun, which I finished this past week. Let me tell you, that game is something that anyone who considers themselves like a fan of like the horror genre in games should play that game, if for no other reason than to just kind of marvel at its like technical achievement. It is so cool in its presentation, and it has such a cool story, such a unique atmosphere to it that I've kind of never really seen done before. And we were talking about Midsummer very briefly during the break. If you like Midsummer, like that folk horror type vibe, you'd love Dawn. It's so cool. And it's also like I thought it was gonna be like a 2 or 3 hour game. That thing is like open enough and big enough with enough secret stuff to like find that it took me about 10 and a half hours to finish it.
Wow.
So it's
Nick,
pretty big.
I feel like you're like famous for turning anything into a 10-hour game. It's always like, that took me like 10 hours.
No, if you go look at like how long to beat, it's averaging like 8 to 10 hours.
I know, but I'm saying never mind.
How dare you?
If it's 8 to 10, you're definitely the 10.
I mean, it's basically
that website's run by a bunch of nicks,
What's wrong with that?
It's fine.
It's basically open world. It's basically open world, and there's all kinds of cool shit to find, and like really unexpected like enemies that you have to kind of deal with, like not fight per se, but like deal with in interesting ways. And it's like there's these enemies that like float around the environment, and they're like they can send swarms of bees after you, and the game doesn't tell you how to deal with them. You just you have to like kind of explore and figure out and find context clues. And then there's this item you pick up early in the game, and you're like, what the fuck is this for? And then I was just like, maybe this does something in relation to this enemy. And I used it, and sure enough, it dealt with him. And it was like just through kind of pure kind of like poking around and experimentation through stuff that I found, like cool stuff like that. And some really unique scares. It also had I think somebody, I don't remember if this came up in the podcast last week, but while trying to compare it to like movie vibes and stuff, it also kind of rings close to the Witch or the Vivitch.
The Vivitch.
Lots of goats.
Witch.
It's cool. That game is really, really cool. Can't say enough. I give it 4 out of 5 stars.
Wow.
Sorry.
Utter disrespect.
I know. Sorry, at this point it's just a
You
gag.
know what? I mean, it's fucking Star Wars. Who cares anymore, right? Fuck Star Wars.
Right, exactly. Who gives a shit?
People who like Star Wars are stupid.
Now this is podcasting.
Yeah.
You've got put on Disney's shit list.
There we go. Wait. If we're doing quick mentions, I didn't know we were doing quick mentions on this episode.
Sure. I mean,
I thought we were just talking about Monster Hunter. But if we're doing quick mentions, I will mention that I did finish Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward, the main quest. I'm now in post Heavensward content, and honestly, holy fucking shit, it's really good. It's like an amazing glow up from A Realm Reborn, and it kind of just makes me feel really sad for Brad, because he stopped like right before the game really just kind of like doubled in quality. No, yeah, dude.
I still had a long way to go before I could
Okay, but that starts in the post A Realm Reborn patch stuff too, and it gets like way crazy. I mean, Heavensward,
Leviathan.
Yeah, you're about to get to like where they actually start giving a shit, and then it just is like it's a steady trajectory upwards towards really fucking dope stuff. The final boss in Heavensward is based on a classic Final Fantasy VII summons. That's like
Alexander.
No, it's it's so good. It's so good. I loved it.
Man, I wish I didn't have to play 80 hours of a
Yeah.
not as great game to get to the great stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, think of it this way. I'm playing Monster Hunter Rise and loving it. So
No, yeah, I'm not. Yeah. I know. We were only gonna get like one really good multiplayer game out of you. I get it. So I'm glad it's Monster Hunter. I think that's. I think it's best for everybody.
I still. So I like to keep my Steam library very tight. Like I only leave what I'm playing installed, and then as soon as I finish something, I uninstall it. Right. But like every time I look at Final Fantasy XIV is still installed, and every time I go to I think about clicking it and clicking uninstall, I chicken out and I stop. And I don't know what that means.
I'll tell you what it fucking means. You having it installed on your computer is the equivalent of going, I own it for like a retail game.
Maybe. But I have
Nick, you should play this. I own it.
But I don't hesitate uninstall.
It's installed.
But I install shit all the time and then uninstall it. Even those if I decide to quit something and even though I'm kind of enjoying it, I'll still uninstall it. But there's something about Final Fantasy XIV.
No fucking I can't even imagine you getting to the point Krispy's at in Final Fantasy XIV.
I mean, I couldn't imagine you getting even halfway to that point. But here we are.
Me?
And you've played so much Final Fantasy XIV. Holy shit.
I'm about to pass up my playtime in 14 and Rise.
Well, I know, but that's because you're a fucking crazy person. But I don't know. Any other quick
Heavensward is so good.
I feel like in my head I'm like, I've played about 20 hours of Final Fantasy XIV, and I'm like, is Heavensward just not even look like the same game as what I've played?
It looks like the same game.
It's well, it doesn't, I mean, the new environments are really cool environments, and the way they do cutscenes is very different. The first time they were using cinematic camera angles and framing, and it wasn't just a medium shot of two people standing there talking at each other. I was like, oh, what's this? Oh my god, they actually got somebody who knows how to frame a shot working on these things now. It's just really good. I don't know what to tell you. I can't recommend that you go through everything you have to go through to get to it, but just know that I'm there and I'm fucking
Nick,
loving
I'll
it.
say this. As much as you rewatch old shit that you've already watched before, this is a good game for you to do that with.
We've had this conversation, Brad. We've had this conversation. I don't split my attention when I play. I can't do it. God. I just can't do it. Maybe I'm not as talented as you, Brad, but I can't.
Yeah, you have to be talented to watch.
Watching something. I can't
do it at the same time.
You never listen to something in the background?
No.
That's so weird. And you sit butt naked in the middle of the room too. You can't be hindered at all.
Well, you're telling me that's strange. Y'all don't do that.
When the servant brings the milk in, they have to come around to your right. Come in with the milk. Come in with the milk.
Oh my god.
He has to say it 10 times, or else he thinks he's gonna die.
That went places I wasn't expecting. Are there any other honorable mentions before I do feedback? No? Okay.
No.
Well, guys, again, we do this show weekly, and we want to give you guys an opportunity to chime in on any discussions, conversations, things we discuss. So I want to read some feedback, and apparently something I said last week worked because we got a bunch of comments this week. So let's just read some of these responses from Kirup. He wrote, as a heads up to Brad, if Final Fantasy XIV doesn't pan out, oh my god, 11 is extremely playable at this point and can be played entirely as a single-player RPG with AI party members.
Right?
Consisting of nearly every relevant character in the game.
You told me even in 14 you could do AI party members, and I was really curious about
crusty.
it. And then everyone just started to shame me for playing an MMO and not wanting to play with people. So
it's they did add AI party members, but I think you have to get to one of the later expansions to use that stuff.
Are those servers even up still?
I think it's private servers for 11.
I would imagine so.
I think it's up officially. It's up officially, I'm pretty sure.
Is it really?
Wow.
Oh.
He goes on to say, I started it during the pandemic and saw credits playing casually over 4 to 5 months without ever playing with another human. It runs like crap without mods and the UI is dated, but the story is fantastic and definitely worth playing, especially if you like cool lady characters.
I mean, Final Fantasy XI is probably more what I envisioned an MMO to be anyways, so, maybe.
Saying cool lady characters in a bullet point advertised to Brad is one of the things.
Hey, there are cool lady characters in Final Fantasy XIV, such as Meryl Vib, my new wife. She's very cool. I named my monster.
Sound like it was going to keep going, and then you just stopped. Our next comment comes from Riceball80. Wrote, I understand why Nick wants the official PlayStation 5 dual controller charger. I ordered one recently for close to $100, close to 3 times retail price, just because it would be cool sitting next to the console and everything. Everyone loves having controllers at full charge. Thankfully, that order never went through. It's not needed at all. I mean, that makes me feel a little bit better. It's one of those weird things. Like, there's only one USB port on the front of the damn PS5, which is really annoying. Mm-hmm. I wish there was at least 2. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad, but I feel like having that extra thing would be nice. But I'm not sweating it. I'm not worried about it. I just one day.
Hold on. Why do you need 2?
I mean, I have 2 controllers now, and
so what you do is you do what I do. Is you play the game, and while you're playing, you plug in one. And then when that one gets low, you swap.
My problem is
what if him and Robin want to play together?
My problem is I use a Turtle Beach
that
has to have a USB dongle plugged in, so I have that plugged in when I'm playing.
And why not just charge it while you're not playing?
Look, these are all thoughts that I've had. Everybody, it would just be nice
guys. Nick likes to consume. Let him be consumer.
Consume shame me, please. You fuckers. Necrotechno says, I can't believe there was a conversation about cool level names and unforeseen consequences wasn't mentioned. I believe
that sounds familiar.
That's Half-Life 2 Episode 2.
Also, apparently a level in Half-Life 1? I think.
Actually, no, that was Half-Life 1.
I think it's also in Half-Life 2 because I just finished playing Half-Life 2. Like that's I think that's kind of a throwback or a reference to a level in Half-Life 1. I could be wrong, but I think he's specifically referring to Half-Life Episode 1. I don't know.
Also,
I don't know.
Who cares? We mentioned we don't go to Ravenholm or whatever. That's the best. So Half-Life was well represented.
Thorax says, I don't know why Sony feels the need to go after anime lewd content when you have Last of Us 2 completely uncensored. What do you guys think? What did Sony go after as far as lewd anime characters? Did I miss something? Was there a big news topic about?
I think it's something
Sony
David said.
Shit? Oh, I guess that's probably true.
I don't know.
Also, I don't really know how that correlates with Last of Us Part 2.
I mean,
fill us in next week.
It was an anime game, right?
Yes,
they covered up somebody's cleavage in an anime game, which Yeah, the thing is, in the West, people are always going to be more comfortable with violence than they are sexuality. So,
so sad. It's so sad. And our last comment tonight comes from Slopdog. He says, "I really need to watch the YouTube version of these episodes more." Chris Davis would appreciate that. Absolutely.
What was that? I'm sorry.
He said, I really need to watch.
He said, I really wish Chris Davis would listen to the podcast while he's on it.
I'm sorry. I was trying to.
Snap.
He's being
put him in his place.
He says, I really need to watch the YouTube version of the podcast more often. Absolutely loved the nervous smiles and face palms everyone was doing while David was describing Mary Skelter too. That's true. We were.
What you mean, Mark Skelter?
With audio alone, there was enough entertainment listening to everyone's tense silence. Yeah, there's a certain thing that you can't really get across without the video, but
a je ne sais quoi.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for commenting. Again, if you would like to leave a comment for next week for this episode, if there's anything we talk about tonight that you want to chime in on or add to, please leave us a comment on the post for this episode at 4playernetwork.com, and we'll read it and respond to it next week. And now we're going to roll into community questions. I want to reiterate too something I said a few weeks ago. News-wise, unless there's something huge that we all know we're going to talk about because it's a big deal. If there's a news topic that you guys want to hear our opinions on, consider framing a question around it on a future episode. We have 2 news topics that are going to come up here tonight, which Nolan have highlighted and read, because we're going to be plucking news topics from here. So again, if there's anything you want us to talk about specifically outside of the 4-player minute or any major discussions that we might otherwise have on the show, frame a question around it. We'd love to hear it. But anyways, Nolan, do you have the questions ready?
Yeah, always.
Maybe we should start with the news. Yeah, I highlighted the news related stuff.
Yeah, we can start with the news ones. You didn't have to highlight them. They're labeled as news in the category.
That's true. I was just trying to be helpful.
That's how smart he thinks you are.
Yeah, fuck me.
I know. Yeah. I can't tell letters, even though I read all this shit. All right, so I was hoping we wouldn't get to this one this week, Nick, mainly because I don't want to read it because it's a lot of words. I'm gonna consolidate it into a TLDR. From Henry from Birmingham, Alabama. So sorry, Henry, I'm gonna consolidate.
Hi, Henry.
This week, Sony announced the closing of PlayStation stores for the PS3, the PSP, and the PS Vita consoles, permanently restricting new purchases as of July 2nd. A lot of words. Should Sony have been required to find a way to preserve this content? Will you be making, or do you recommend any purchases as to not miss out on any of the games that may still be worthwhile or listed or on the listed storefront?
You know what's really special fucked up about this whole situation is that
you have my PSP TV.
Yeah, I definitely still have that. I'm joking. I have it. It's in a box.
Okay.
Do you want it back?
I mean, kind of.
But there are smaller game studios who didn't find out that this whole thing was happening until they read the reporting about it, and are now losing their game.
Because that's the only way to get their. That's like the only.
Because that's the only thing they're released on. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like how fucked up this whole situation.
There's a good chance that hundreds of games are just going to disappear and they'll never. This
is the kind of stuff I was tapping into when we were talking about Dreams. This whole idea that it's like these companies don't fucking care about preserving art or anything like that. They care about making money, so they're going to shut down anything that doesn't make them money, and that means that we lose a lot of shit. And this industry in particular is really fucking bad about archiving and preserving, it's hard.
I think it's harder than a lot of other
sure,
harder than preserving like a film or something, it's
I can understand to an extent. It's not just think of an emulator website. None of us are familiar with those. What do those sites do? They literally host a file, and that is it. The problem in this situation is they're not hosting a file. They are hosting a storefront. That means they have to maintain purchasing abilities. That means they have to maintain security. That means they have to maintain obviously servers that run all of that. They have to maintain the platforms in which you can play those things on. They can't just expect it. It's one of those things where an emulator is easy because it's up to the person who's consuming it to figure it out. In this situation, they have to essentially be able to hold your hand. They have to make it impossible for you to mess up by doing all this. And unfortunately, it's not just hosting a file. It's this whole... So I get it to an extent. Don't get me wrong. I still wish they had a legitimate way to let users do that. So they were maybe to an extent where they're just hosting a file somewhere that you can then play on some registered device with some a copyright on it would be fine. I think that'd be a lot better than just taking it down. But...
I think they are allowing for re-downloads though.
So yes, they are allowing you to re-download something you've purchased before, which is the situation of they're just hosting a file now.
But that's until July 2nd, right? Or is that going to be continued?
I think it's going to be continued. I'm not 100%. Don't quote me.
I will say that the Vita, has a lot of cool indie games, but a lot of those indie games you can get elsewhere. The PS3 though has a lot of indie games where you can't get anywhere else. Those games are just gonna fucking
That's the one
away.
I'm surprised about.
Yeah.
I was.
He's looking for recommendations, and that's tough to kind of pull him out of my ass. But like, there's some cool stuff I used to stream back in the day.
And it's not just like indie games and downloadable content. Like, there's going to be DRM issues that are going to lock people out of the disc content that they purchased.
Yeah.
How so?
But you should be able to re-download that.
I don't think it's going to lock you out of anything. Yeah, I mean, maybe to an extent I'd like, no. This is just, to my knowledge, this is just like purchases for like new games that you've never owned before. You're not going to be able to purchase them anymore.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to. The store is basically going to disappear, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to be able to access.
Can you get patches though for games?
That's a good question that I don't have the answer to.
Yeah.
I would assume so, Brad, because it's the same concept of trying to boot up a game. That patch is still going to be hosted somewhere. They're not going to delete everything. They're just not allowing new people to download.
Nick's nightmare of the 1.0 on the disc being no good is coming true.
Yeah,
potentially.
I don't think that's the case.
Eventually,
yeah, Gigamir says they said patches are still going to be available. So yeah, no.
I have come around in recent. I've become more acclimated to a digital world.
Well,
in the past few years, Bradley.
I think this is something that should be part of the discussion of console versus PC gaming from now on, because this is the kind of problem that, like, I mean, can crop up on PC, but it's just so much.
It's way less often.
So much more avoidable. There's so many avenues, even for developers, to get their stuff out there. I mean, even if it was just like putting the source code up on like itch, or something like that. Like, there's so many other ways to just keep the game alive rather than going through this like purely like one company's consumer interface,
It's also going to make developers think twice about signing contracts specifically with Sony for exclusivity on a digital platform going forward, I would imagine. Like, if you've done it once, you've done it. You could do it to us again. But like, to be honest, I was surprised most by the PS3 being part. I was like, PSP and Vita, I can maybe see why there wasn't enough interest there or enough use there.
But their last generation console, like the one we just got off of a couple years ago, like
that's kind of bananas.
That's crazy.
Yeah, technically at this point it is 2 generations. But Krispy, to your point, in regards to PC, while yes, there are some limitations, I think they are few and far between for the ability to. No, I'm agreeing with you.
No, you're right. I keep forgetting that PS5 is a thing, because to me it's not even really much of a thing yet. Like, there's not.
You like think of a prime example: Daggerfall, the predecessor to Morrowind, Elder Scrolls 2, came out in '96 for DOS. You can download that game now for free from Bethesda. Yeah, like it's like one of those things where it's like they're like, okay, look, at this point we're not really going to make any money from it. You can pirate it, or here, we'll just give it to you.
Yeah,
because it's one of those things where it's a 25-year-old game, and
I feel like it's going to be indie devs that feel the brunt of this the most.
Oh yeah, it always is, Nick. It's always the people with the least amount of money who feel the biggest impact.
Yep. Yep. I know we didn't make any specific recommendations in there, but I hope that kind of answers the question.
I think Crash is a pretty cool tower defense / offense game.
I think it's one of those things where.
Were there any Lumineth games that were only digital?
How come I can't go to the store and buy a new copy of Super Mario Brothers for the NES on the cartridge? It's like things have to become unavailable at some point to an extent. I think when it comes to indies, I would hope that an indie developer. I understand that it's difficult to put games on multiple platforms, and if they just design it for a single platform, I don't want to say it's on them if they never move it to another platform, but you have to understand that at some point that platform is going to go away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny we're talking about this on the day that Mario died.
That's true. Yes, that is true.
Fucking rest in hell, bitch.
That's a whole nother story. I don't want it, for those that don't know, the whole Super Mario 3D All-Stars becoming unavailable as of yesterday was the last day. That's a whole nother story, Brad, and that's just bullshit. That has nothing to do with developers and that's just Nintendo being greedy.
Yeah.
Trying to pull like the Disney vault mentality.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like
right.
I don't know. I don't like this. I don't like this, and it makes me feel very socialist thinking about this kind of stuff.
All right, let's move on. We spent a lot of time on that question. Next one from Gigamir from Kentucky. Lately, there have been rumors, reports, and hints suggesting that Remedy's next major project is a sequel to 2010's Alan Wake. Given that so much has changed in the industry over this last decade, how much do you think they will deviate from the linear design of that original game? Do you think that's something they should do? How much of the influence do you think Control will have over that?
I think that if Control has indicated anything, it's that Remedy really only knows how to make one kind of game.
Whoa.
Okay.
Well, I would say that I think a lot of people were.
It was more ambitious structurally, yes, but it wasn't nearly as ambitious as it should have been.
I feel like Krispy is turning on Control almost like he turned on Batman Arkham Origins.
Not turning on Control. I'm just like, it's a fine game, but like emphasis on fine. Like it.
Alan Wake though is an incredible game.
I think the reception of the structure of Control, the open world formula they try to go with, was well received. Don't forget that for a large portion of Alan Wake's development, it was going to be an open world game. So
right, yeah, I mean that game was in development hell for so long. It probably went through so many different iterations until that version became the best option to make that game a reality. And luckily, I think that worked out to their credit a lot. I also want to point out real quick that this news story was picked up a lot yesterday. I can't remember who said it. Was it? Oh God, I don't want to say his name because I'm going to fuck it up. But he started this by saying he has some maybe behind the scenes knowledge that Epic Games is going to be publishing Alan Wake 2 as part of this agreement with Remedy, and that's all fine and dandy, and that sounds exciting, especially coming for someone like me who I consider Alan Wake to be one of my favorite games of all time. I hope to God it's true, but let me tell you, saying something like that the day before April Fool's, I don't know how I feel about this. Well, it's a little too close for comfort. You know what I mean?
Does this mean we're going to get some sick Alan Wake content in Fortnite?
Yes, probably so. Okay, yeah, it was Jeff Grubb who said this, and he sounded like
you were afraid to pronounce Jeff Grubb's name.
No, I mean I just didn't know what his name was. I knew it was Jeff something. I didn't know what his last name was. I didn't want to butcher it. Kind of like how I accidentally misspoke and said that Mundaun was made in Sweden.
It's pronounced
when it's made in Switzerland.
Grub, asshole.
Grub.
It's actually pronounced Hef.
The point is, and to Krispy's point, Remedy has proven time and again that they mechanically their games are very, very, very similar. It's everything around them that they experiment with, but mechanically speaking, they are very, very close. And I think they do that very, very well, and I'm cool with that. I do hope they maybe take some bigger risks. But yeah, if they're gonna bother making Alan Wake 2, I do think they need to get really ambitious with the approach to world design, approach to level design. I think their approach to Control was actually quite, from a world design standpoint, was actually really interesting. There's a lot of room to do some really creative stuff.
Certainly a step in the right direction.
And I think that's especially true if this is ultimately going to end up being another game that's very Alan Wake, very Control, very Quantum Break in terms of gameplay, which I think it's like an 80% chance that that's the case. So I don't know. I hope this is fucking true. They've said for years that like they had no plans for Alan Wake 2. So
Nick, stop talking about Alan Wake. We have more questions.
I can't. It's one of my favorites. It's
better
than Star Wars: A New Hope.
Next question from the Drunken Merchant. I recently lent my neighbor my copy of Final Fantasy VII Remake because they said they were interested, and I had beaten it 3 times already. Okay, Drunken Merchant, come.
Okay.
What's a game you have lent out and felt happy about the fact that you may have introduced someone to a new experience? And as a bonus question, how many lent games have you gotten back from those people? Krispy.
Damn, you keep a guy's PSP TV for 4 years and he never forgets it.
Man, this is exactly why I don't lend out games very often.
Oh yeah, because Nolan was gonna be playing so much PSTV. Yeah,
dude.
Okay.
I was gonna do it.
Okay.
When we did 2000 month, I was gonna use it, but you had it, so I had to do it on I had to bust out my PS3.
Oh no.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying it's the end. Anyway,
right. It's yours. I'm a bad person. I'm sorry.
You're not a bad person.
I'll mail it to you.
I mean, okay. Anyway,
is, like,
moving on.
I feel like it's maybe it's just me, and my experience is probably different than a lot of people's, but I feel like this day and age, like lending games, maybe it's just because I don't hang out with people.
I agree with you, Nick. I think we should let's tweak this question slightly and say maybe games you've introduced to people, because yes, I do agree that it's less of a situation where Adam Hilbin says he's going to lend you Paper Mario on the 64 and never does, and you recommend people games and they look into them, or you gift them on like Steam or some shit. I think it's more prominent.
Adam Hilbin.
I introduced Joel to Katamari. I don't think he went very far beyond playing it here, but when he was hanging out with me and whatnot. But he got really into that game for a short amount of time. Robin. I introduced Robin to Until Dawn. And she's played that game like 6 times now.
I introduced Nick to Tales from the Borderlands. I think we all did.
Yeah.
Felt really good about that one.
Oh, this is
going back to the heart of the question. I honestly can't remember a game I've lent to someone and haven't gotten back. I think almost every game I've lent to someone I've gotten back.
Oh man, I thought I lent. I forgot who. I thought I lent. At some point, I lent my copy of Silent Hill 2 to someone. I don't remember who at this point, but I was.
But Nick, you love Silent Hill 2.
I do. I know. I was like, and then like, I don't remember how long ago it was, but I finally was like, I'm gonna play Silent Hill 2, and I went to bust out my game, and I was like, where the fuck is my copy of Silent Hill 2? And I was like, oh my god, I never got it back. So I went and bought a new copy of Silent Hill 2. Let me tell you, getting a used copy of Silent Hill 2 at Game Over or something is not cheap. And then I came back that day. And then I came back that day and I found my copy of Silent Hill 2. So now I have 2 copies of Silent Hill 2. Actually, I returned the one to Game Over. But the point is,
I have Chris Davis's copy of
Demon Souls.
And I played it for like 10 minutes. I just went to see what it looked like on my TV. I got
you shitbird.
Man, you know what I'm realizing now that years ago when the Switch came out and Super Mario Odyssey came out and I borrowed Chris's Switch to play it, I should have just fucking kept it.
You probably would have got more use out of it than me.
For as much as he's willing to play it.
So Joel recently got a Switch, and he was like, looking for recommendations and whatnot, and I recommended Hades, and he got Hades, and now he loves fucking Hades.
Nice. And now he's got another kid on the way. Way to go.
For those that aren't live, what's up, Chris Davis?
I was gonna say, is somebody missing a PS3 copy of Demon Souls?
Me, totally.
Okay, then I guess I'm the one that has your copy.
I think no one's kidding.
I might be lying. I'm not sure.
I might be missing.
I might be missing a copy, honestly.
No, I think I am. Definitely.
Maybe we should fight to the death. Hey, remember that scene in The Dark Knight where the Joker broke the cue stick, the pull cue, and then was like, sorted out. Mm-hmm. That should be us fighting for this copy of Demon Souls.
I think I lent my copy of Ghost.
I'm the one that deserves it. I'm the only one that doesn't have a PS5.
That's true. That's Christmas.
Those are facts.
I don't have a PS3 either. So
while Nick was talking, I had showed that I still have Brad's Metal Gear Solid HD Collection Disc 2 for the Xbox 360 that he lent me 2 or 3 years ago. It's been sitting on my shelf this whole time, even back before COVID when Brad was coming over here. It's not like I was hiding it from him. It's literally sitting there on the shelf. It was a good
collection. I wonder if that's easy to find now or not. I wonder if it's
I think I might own it digitally now, but I think at the time I didn't when I borrowed it. But anyway, all right, let's move on. I'm going to do a question that Nick didn't highlight because fuck Nick. From Negative Cosine. What food was ruined for you by your parents cooking?
Oh, I can't.
I think we can all safely say Brussels sprouts.
I've come around on Brussels sprouts in the past few years.
No, I love Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels, but not because of the way my parents cook. Because parents, like people from a different generation, just steam the shit out of Brussels sprouts by default. It wasn't until people my own age started using them and roasting them or grilling them that I was like, oh my god, Brussels sprouts are fucking awesome.
Well,
all I had before that was just gross steamed Brussels sprouts.
Can I stop you for 1 second? Brad, can you stop breathing directly into your mic? It sounds like fucking Darth Vader.
It's me?
Yes, it's being picked up quite loudly. Okay, anyway, Brussels sprouts. For me, my mom, I guess, being a child of post, I don't post, obviously post World War II, but I mean
boomer.
Canned things was such a big deal that's all she bought when I was growing up was canned shit. And I hated vegetables growing up because she's like, here's your canned peas. And I was like, they're fucking mushy and gross and disgusting. And then the other one, I don't know, sometimes you listen, Mom. If you are listening, doesn't mean I don't love you. But the other one was potatoes au gratin or whatever. She would buy them, but she would buy them in a box.
Actually, I think it's pronounced au gratin.
Au gratin. Sorry, thank you. I don't know how to pronounce it. But she would buy them in a box, and I would literally hide them in our pantry from her because I hated when she made them. I'm sure if I had real ones, maybe it'd be better. But
the Betty Crocker boxes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
This isn't exactly the same thing, but it's something that sticks out in my memory. I remember being a kid at the grocery store one time with my mom and seeing a jar of Jet Puff marshmallow fluff, the marshmallow fluff stuff. And I remember being like, "Oh, wow, can we get that?" And my mom was just like, "You don't like that." And I was like, "Oh." And for years I thought I didn't like marshmallow puff. And then I ate it one day and was like, "What the fuck?" I told my mom about that. It was like, for years I just assumed I hated it. And she's like, "I don't even remember that happening."
That sounds like a pro parenting tip right there. It's like when the kids are young and impressionable,
that's
and they
definitely
ask
what you
be
do.
like, "No, you don't like it," and they just
you don't like it.
You don't like it, or when you give them certain drinks, you water the shit out of it. Like
your mom,
you give them soda, you give them soda,
but they will hold on to it till they're an adult, and then think you're a fucking liar one day.
Crispy's mom Jedi mind tricked him. That's pretty incredible.
Crispy, speaking
out of my head
of marshmallow fluff, I don't think I ever really even knew about marshmallow fluff until we went to PAX East in Boston, and we stayed with Sci-Fi and her parents.
They made fluffernutter sandwiches.
Yeah, they made fluffernutters, which I'd never had, and
I've still never had one.
And so we had but the funny thing was the best was Sci-Fi's. Yeah, you won't like it, Crispy. You won't like.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
Sci-Fi's mom was the nicest lady, and she wanted us to feel so at home. So when she went to the store, she bought Texas toast bread because that's what we have in Texas.
That's what they eat.
That's all we have. That's all we use.
For people that don't know, Texas toast is like an inch thick. It is like the thickest cut bread, and that's what we have our sandwiches on.
That is fucked up.
Damn.
So sweet. Oh, God bless that lady.
Yeah, vivid memories. It was great times. All right, so let's move on. Nick, you highlighted one. Did you want me to ask that one, or you just happen to be where your cursor is?
Oh, that's where my cursor is. Sorry.
Okay, cool. All right, let's move on. Next question. This one's also from Negative Cosine. Oh, fuck, whatever.
Feel free to skip around, Nolan. Just take your own liberties. You got this.
No, I'll ask this one. This is a good one. Because we've already talked about this a little bit. How do you feel about FromSoft hiding content in their games? It seems a walkthrough is required if you want to see major story and gameplay content.
First of all, there's something very special about the way FromSoft designs games, and part of what makes them special is the fact that a lot of that content requires or expects you to
watch VaatiVidya videos.
Not necessarily. I mean, there's some things that you may never see because they're very obscure. But I think it's a game that most of their games encourage exploration that even without a walkthrough, you'll see like 70%, right, of what's out there. But the cool thing is that extra 30% is still really cool, but may require you to dig a little deeper, or someone may require you to tell you about it or something, and that's not bad.
I think that honestly, this ties into my opinions with a lot of media, in that I feel like people aren't as accustomed to just like I don't know, tying a narrative together for themselves, you know? Which sounds like a really dickish thing to say, but I honestly think that there's something to that. Like, you watch the way people talk about like kind of obscure movies, like even like movies that aren't even that obscure, but like kind of obscure, you know? And it's like a lot of people are just there because they want to find the, you know, the right path, or they want to see it all, you know, and then move on. And that's fine, but like, there's nothing wrong with just not knowing, or just not having all the pieces. Or I think what's really interesting about the way that those games are set up is that you really can play through them a bunch of times and then just like see a little detail that kind of like slots into your knowledge of the game and opens up a whole new understanding about things, right? And you don't get that unless you're not afraid of just filtering some people. And
yeah,
I don't think that that's like to anyone's detriment. I don't think it's against anybody. I think that it is kind of a beautiful, wonderful thing, you know?
And it's not even just like from software games. Like, I'm thinking about like, you know, I started replaying Red Dead Redemption 2 a while back, and I'm still playing it. And that game is so big, and there's so many little details that like I'm seeing. I spent like 120 hours in my first playthrough of that game, and I'm still, even early on in my second playthrough, am seeing things that I didn't see before, and finding little things that I missed. And like, that's kind of what makes going back and revisiting these games so great.
And Demon Souls is just kind of like, or Dark Souls, like the Souls games or whatever, are kind of like the popular example of this, but they're not the only games that do this. They're not the only pieces of media that do this. And you may feel a little like I kind of feel like some people are worried about feeling left out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't want to have to go through the experience of playing the whole game in order to kind of get what's going on, or they don't want to have to sit through a bunch of lore videos online to get what's going on. And you don't really have to. I think it's more about just making peace with the fact that like you're not going to fully understand every piece of art you ever engage with, you know? And there is something that you do have a deep appreciation for that a lot of people don't, you know? And it's okay if, you know, your curiosity is going to pull you as far as it's going to pull you. And if it doesn't pull you all the way, then, you know, that's how interested you are, and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with joining the conversation without being like one of these VOD lore guys, you know?
I agree. Yeah. On the flip side, and this may sound a little blasphemous, but you know, for some of those From Software games, like they could stand to have just a little bit more direction for the player. Like, let me give you a specific example. Bloodborne is probably my most played From Software game. I beat it like 3 times. To get the final true boss and true ending to the game, you have to collect 3 pieces of umbilical cord. There's 4 in the game, but you have to collect and use 3 of them. Yeah. There is absolutely no direction or hint at whatsoever on how and where to find these, what their uses are.
But if you played that whole game and didn't fight the final boss because you didn't know about that, did you have a lesser experience, really? Like, did you have a non-fulfilling experience? I don't think so. And I think it's kind of great that like someone's gonna figure that out, because, you know, people are fucking insane. But imagine playing that game, getting to the end of it, falling in love with it, and being like, I love this game, and talking about it with people, and then like years down the road, someone's like, oh dude, did you know if you eat these 3 umbilical cords, there's a secret boss? That moment shouldn't be a moment of like, oh my god, I've wasted all my life thinking I like this game, and I didn't play the last boss. But it should be a moment of like, oh my god, I get to go back and play new content that I didn't know existed. This game's even better than I thought it was.
But to be honest here, how many people are actually going to do that? But like, how many people are going to replay?
I think if somebody got that far in the game, like they would be likely
3 times.
Yeah,
I did. But I'm a fucking weirdo. Okay,
but that's just it, Chris. That's what I'm saying. I don't think you had
games.
If you played 60 hours of a From Software game and left before the game was over, like didn't see credits, did that invalidate your 60 hours? I don't think so. I mean, that game is really good front to back. Like I think it's okay. I think maybe we shouldn't, shame people for dropping games or walking away from games that they didn't want to spend all that time on. Absolutely, if that's kind of the direction that this question is getting at, but
I'm just saying.
I don't think you're really. I don't know.
And also, if you're the kind of person who wants to see every inch of a game, then I feel like you should be comfortable and you should be okay with the idea of like looking it up. You know what I mean? Like if that's what you feel you need to do to validate your experience, look it up.
Oh, no, I understand your points. All I'm saying in general, that was a specific example for a very specific game. What I'm saying is that there's a balance to looking stuff up and the game providing information. But no matter how convoluted that information is, the fact that the information is provided is important to me.
But here's the thing, and this is just, we could go down a rabbit hole and have a whole podcast about this.
Speaking of which, I feel like the problem of soliciting like good quality questions is like we're not answering the questions. They're each their own discussion topics.
Sure. And we don't have to go down the road. We can end on this. It seems to me a common sentiment that Chris Davis brings forth when talking about games is that he's kind of maybe in the same boat as the person who asked this question. I don't know. I'm just kind of, maybe this is what inspired the question in the first place, which
is of the good side, the question asker.
The good side.
Okay, and maybe you're. I mean, I'm just saying, like, there's a certain part of you that needs the game to tell you, or there's a certain amount of information you expect the game to give you. But on the flip side of that is not like FromSoft games, as the example we're going with here, are specifically designed with the opposite of that in mind.
Secrets, community secrets, found secrets are part of what gives that series.
They're
magic.
water cooler games. They're water cooler games. Like being able to have conversations and have your mind blown while talking to other people playing the game is why those games exist.
Yeah, and if you really want to go down that rabbit hole, there's content that isn't even in the game that like wasn't developed for the release version of the game that people have gone back and data mined and found and recreated, and people feel like that's part of the experience. I want to know that, like some of it really is just this deep digging. And honestly, I think when it comes to video games and when it comes to a lot of media, video games in particular, because they usually require such a time investment, there is this real sense of FOMO baked into it. And honestly, that FOMO is just kind of a side effect of the fact that these games are sold to us as consumer products. So I just don't put much stock in it, Like, there's a great game that came out last year, and I feel like I don't have time to play it. Whatever. Like, I'm glad that people who did play it had fun with it, but I'm not going to get sucked into thinking I need to buy it,
Fair enough. All right. Let's cut questions there. We're going a little late, and we covered a lot of ground there. Thank you guys for submitting all these questions. Keep them coming. If you're a supporter on Patreon or Twitch, you can ask us questions every week. You don't even have to wait. There's literally a link pinned in the supporters channel in Discord, which you should have access to if you're a Twitch or Patreon supporter. You can submit questions as they come up, as they pop into your head. Go submit a question. if there's a news topic you want us to address in the show outside of our 4-player minute or outside of a grander discussion that we'll usually let people know we're going to have in ahead of the show, frame a question around it. This week was great. So with that in mind, thank you guys for subscribing on Twitch and Patreon. We really appreciate the support. But now let's wrap up the show with the 4-player minute. Brad.
Yeah.
By the way, 4-player minute last week was very long. Let's.
It was fucking ridiculous.
It was like 30 minutes long.
Wait, we have one more question. Would you rather eat 1 foot of your own turd or have 3 feet of someone else's turd shoved up your butt?
I don't think I've ever pooped a foot long turd.
Up the butt, right? I mean, why would you be eating turds? That's terrible.
Yes, also I agree, up the butt.
But these kind of questions we can answer very quickly and move on.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's not inspire our community to ask those kind of questions.
We need a splattering of shit.
Brad is literally trying to encourage the kind of questions I'm trying to discourage.
Brad, what needs to happen is I poop into your butthole, and then you poop it back into my butthole.
Back and forth.
And we keep pooping back and forth with the same poop forever.
What was that from?
That's that movie. Well, no, it was from that movie.
Somebody Google poop back and forth
every
forever.
Which way, but something.
No, don't Google that. Don't Google that.
That is from a movie. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Please, 4-player minute. Please go.
I was close. It's me, you, and everyone we know.
It's an oddly sweet moment.
Oh, that's the Miranda July movie. I like that movie. That was a good movie.
Yeah.
My hype is they announced that they're going to do a sequel to Judgment, which I didn't think that was going to happen, but I like Judgment. Judgment was cool. I'm excited to hop back into that spin-off side story of Yakuza.
You stand.
My sweat for this week goes to It Takes Two. I started playing that with Malia, and let me tell you, that's a video game, and she's been struggling. She's been very upset. She's been like, "Fuck this game! This game, fucking, I hate this shit." Like it's a video game, like real platforming, shooting. I mean, it's a video game. So I don't know if we're gonna make it through that. Apparently, it's like 10 hours long, so it's not a short thing either. So there's a lot more to do. I don't know. But it's pretty cool. We'll talk about it eventually. My thank you for this week goes to the Resident Evil engine. Man, like they do. I mean, that's what Monster Hunter Rise is running on. They do like magical shit with that engine, man. It's crazy. Which leads me to my, I guess to follow up that. Do you think Dragon's Dogma 2 is going to be running in the Resident Evil engine? And when do you think we're going to hear about Dragon's Dogma 2?
What if Dragon's Dogma 2 doesn't exist?
This year?
It does exist. It does exist in some form.
Are we expecting to hear about it this year?
It was both confirmed in that leak and also strongly hinted by Itsuna.
Confirmed?
So. Well, I mean, you know, everything else from the leaks has been confirmed so far. So,
man,
I mean,
Dragon's Dogma.
It wasn't. This is not a rumor. It was a hack.
Wait. So what was your actual question about it? Do we think what?
Do you think it's going to run in the Resident Evil engine? And if it does, it's going to be.
Dude, everything runs in the Resident Evil engine. I'm pretty sure they're doing everything in that fucking engine.
God, Dragon's
was Monster Hunter World in the Resident Evil engine?
Greatest.
Yeah, no, no. Was Monster Hunter World?
Monster Hunter World is not. I don't think so.
I mean, Resident Evil 7, I think, was the first game using that engine, right?
I think World came out after 7, though.
Yeah,
but World was in development for a long time, so I don't know.
I don't
know. World is empty. Okay, empty framework. So, and my fuck you for this week goes to Nintendo, of course, for putting out a Mario collection, never dropping the price and just deciding to get rid of it. You know, if they really wanted people to have it, why didn't they just like reduce the price towards the end? You know?
Yeah, right.
Fucking assholes. They don't want people to have it. They just want to make a bunch of money, and I didn't feel like spending
money,
$60.
Man.
I didn't have $60 to spend on a video game. The only video game I bought in a long time is Monster Hunter Rise. I don't, you know, I would have liked to have bought it down the line at some point.
No, they'll release it from their Nintendo vault eventually, Brad.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I have a question mark to wrap things up. My question mark is that new Oddworld game. You know, I've liked Oddworld games in the past. This new one is coming out this month, and it's on part of PlayStation Plus, so we all get to try it.
I'm gonna play it because of PlayStation Plus for sure.
Yeah, I think.
Do you need to play it at this point though? They've released like 30 hours of trailers.
Yeah, there was a lot of trailers. I think for whatever reason, Sony has been positioning it in a lot of their press conferences and stuff as like, a big part of their lineup. Maybe not a big part, but I think a lot of it has to do with traditionally like those type of old school side scrolling Abe's Odyssey style Oddworld games. I think were always associated with PlayStation. And if you look at the success of some of the old stuff that came back, like Spyro and Crash, and it all did really well, I think they're just sort of banking on like, hey, here's another. You have a lot of nostalgia for old PlayStation stuff. Here's another one. So, but hopefully the game is good. I mean, trailers look okay. I mean, it looks like Oddworld. I like Oddworld, so we'll see. But it's a question mark.
Chris Davis.
Me next? Okay.
Yep, you're next.
All right.
Say it.
Well, my hype this week is very obvious for everyone. It's it's Godzilla versus Kong. It came out yesterday. Did $130 million overseas, and it did $9 million domestic in one day. That's pretty good for a pandemic going on right now.
It's probably still not very good for the bottom line, but
I mean, but
pretty good.
It's not bad for evidently it's the highest rated pandemic opening. So that's a title, isn't it?
Dubious honor.
That's great.
I have bought IMAX tickets for this weekend. And I've also rented an Alamo Theater with a bunch of my friends for the 10th. Oh my
God.
We're all going to have a bunch of fun. So,
do you have like an executive producer credit on this?
They're going to go ape.
No, I'm an AP.
Meanwhile, not I'm going to watch it this weekend on HBO Max.
You do that. I hope you enjoy it.
Oh, it's on HBO. I might watch it.
You rated it You rated Kong Skull Island 3.5 stars on your.
I watched that recently. It's pretty good.
You thought that was better than Star Wars: A New Hope. So
I honestly,
oh
it
my
might be.
God!
Oh, stop it!
Are we done?
So yeah, that's my really big hype this week. My sweat this week is going back to the kind of the crack I've been on lately with Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. I am now, according to Steam, at 128 hours. I think I'm just one more week away from passing what I played on the 360 the whole time. And I'm just still having a blast, man. Just unlocking characters, unlocking new weapons, and just trying out new combinations that are just so stupid. The Volus Vanguard that charges at enemies with such a force as to make them go flying is so funny. Oh man, I'm having so much fun.
The ones that talk about their emotions?
No, Volus are the little 2.5, 3 foot ones that are like volleyballs. Yeah. They're so small they can't take cover. Like their roll is literally rolling their body. It's so funny. Oh, I'm so glad they added to the game.
You were thinking of the Elcor, right?
Yeah, I was thinking of Elcor.
Yeah,
they can't inflect emotion, so they have to just say
Let's be honest. An Elcor herd would be great too.
Oh, that would be great. The Elcor Vanguard would be amazing.
They should make a Hanar.
The Hanar. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, have you guys
fucking Blasto?
Yeah. Have you seen that someone did like fan art of a Hanar that's got like all its tentacles holding guns and it says "Enkindle this"?
Yeah, that's Blasto.
Pretty funny.
Oh, so good. My thank you this week actually goes to Austin Public Health. Last week we were trying to get appointments with Milam County's health department, which is like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from here.
That's probably still where I'm going to end up going.
And that night, right before the podcast, I was able to get an appointment with APH to do the drive-through down south. So last Friday, I drove down to South Austin. I went through the drive-through at the Burger Center, and the Burger Center.
Yeah. I mean, it's a high school football field.
Yeah. Right there. It's a drive-through site. Yeah, and I got my first Moderna shot. So,
God damn you guys!
It was great. Yeah. I was in and out in half an hour. I've got my card right here too. Yeah. So
fuck all of you.
It's great.
I put it in my wallet and it got all mushed.
In fact, I feel I feel about 80%.
Wait, why is your
effective.
wallet so mushy?
Well, I mean, the card's kind of big. It didn't really fit all that well.
Yeah, it's bigger than a credit card, and it's made out of just really thick paper, so it's not that good. And my fuck you this week, my long-standing fuck you goes to Activision. Just for Activision being Activision. I guess if you need a specific example this week, Microsoft is doing an Xbox digital sale right now. And of course, a number of Call of Duty titles are on sale. And you could buy Call of Duty Ghosts, probably the shittiest Call of Duty game that was ever made, for $40 on sale. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Activision? Do you really think people want to buy fucking Call of Duty Ghosts and are willing to pay that much money for it?
It's not the worst Call of Duty ever made.
Yeah.
Maybe Big Red 1 or Finest Hour. There's been some bad Call of Duty games.
Big Red 1 has a bigger following than you think. But like Ghost was just so bad.
Let's not debate
that. So anyway, that's it for me.
All right, Nolan, you're up.
All right, my hype this week goes to more Monster Hunter. I've definitely been enjoying my time with it. I'm going to be playing it more. I'm still worried about weapon choices and stuff like that. I don't know if I want to stick with one or try and play them all. I don't know if I'm good enough yet. Maybe I should just stick with one for now and play the whole game with a single weapon type that I can kind of gel with to make my life easier. But I am enjoying it. My sweat goes now. It's changed. It goes to It Takes Two after Brad's comments because I was actually planning on playing that with Bernadette this weekend. And since she does listen live, I texted her when Brad mentioned that. All I said was, uh-oh. And she said, quote, I hate it already. I give up preemptively.
No. It's not that bad. The checkpointing is very forgiven, but that me saying that something is forgiving in the game has been banned in this household. Apparently, Malia finds that very insulting.
Well, I'm still worried about it, but I still plan on trying to get Bernadette to play it with me. My thank you this week actually goes to Activision because they hold on, Chris Davis, hold on. They reduced the size of Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Warzone by 42 gigs, which is great because that's a lot smaller on my computer. But my fuck you goes to Activision because they required me to re-download the entire fucking thing, which now, after being reduced by 42 gigs, it's still 185 gigs. They didn't fucking let you know. They didn't give you a choice. It's just I went to boot up the game to play some Modern Warfare with my Call of Duty friends, and all of a sudden it was like, hey, you can play this in 3 hours, fucker.
Yeah.
That was not an exciting time. But anyway, I mean, fuck you to Activision for countless things, but that's it.
Alrighty. Krispy?
All right. My hype this week goes... I'm giving my hype to Final Fantasy XIV because I just finished Heavensward and it was amazing, and I'm just really excited right now. My sweat I'm going to give to Monster Hunter only because I'm at that, I'm the most indecisive person in the world, right? And I'm at this point again where I'm like, I've been using a weapon and I'm like, oh, but I want to go play with the other weapons because they added all these new things. Like I saw fucking Brad doing the whole fucking jet thing around with the gun lance, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should go back to gun lance. Oh, but maybe I should do great sword. Oh, but dual sword's really fun. Maybe I should learn a new weapon like hunting horn or hammer or something. And it's like I just can't fucking pick, and I'm crafting shit, so I'm using resources, and it's just like it's hell. It's hell in heaven, I guess. You know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. You feel like you're wasting resources, and
every fucking time. And my fuck you for the week is actually left over from last week since it wasn't on the show, and we have since come to terms, but last week my fuck you was to Brad because he was making fun of the way my Final Fantasy XIV character looked. He's all like, that armor looks like shit, and it was like a glamour plate that I made myself. So I was like, oh my god, like, you so piece mean of shit. But we talked about it. He apologized and I apologized, and we're all good now. But at the time I was like, this motherfucker. And my thank you goes to Jaeger and Wind, who actually were online at 2 a.m. to help me finish Heavensward and did the last dungeon and the final boss fight with me. Which that final boss fight was amazing, really hectic and confusing though. So I'm glad I had them there to kind of help me out. But holy shit, you guys, it was so good.
Fuck Wind, man. He was my partner in crime back in Monster Hunter Iceborne.
I know, he was fucking driving you around. He was fucking like your chauffeur.
He says he cares more about Final Fantasy XIV than Monster Hunter, so we don't talk anymore.
Wow.
But that's my 4-player minute.
All right, let's see. My 4-player minute starts now. My hype is Resident Evil Village. That game comes out in a little over a month now, so I'm starting to get pretty hyped for it. I don't even think I'm going to bother playing whatever demo they're planning on releasing. I'm just kind of, I don't think it's necessary at this point. I'm going to play it one way or the other. My thank you goes to everyone who has helped me kind of find my footing with Monster Hunter Rise. I'm really into it, and I fully intend to keep playing it, and I can't wait to see where it goes. I'm gonna do another hype for It Takes Two. Rob and I are gonna play it, although partially a sweat because Robin, like I mentioned before, Robin's we have different focuses when it comes to gaming. So she's been trying to get me to play Dead Space 3 with her lately. So we started playing Dead Space 3 last week. So right now it's kind of like she wants me to play Dead Space 3 and I want her to play It Takes Two with me. So it's kind of like this back and forth pull.
You've been playing co-op with
watching
her.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, by the way. Be careful.
Motherfucker.
I've been wanting a co-op partner for Dead Space 3 for years.
Well,
Robin would probably asking you for years.
Robin would probably love to play it with
Chris Davis, one day you'll find that special co-op partner.
I'm not certain I ever will.
She'll make you play bad games like Rob.
I'm having fun with it so far. My sweat goes to Narita Boy. That game's out. I got it on Game Pass. But I've heard kind of mixed things about it so far.
Really?
I haven't really looked too deep into it. I mean, a lot of it's been like it's got great presentation, but maybe mechanically speaking, it's not so satisfying. I don't know. I'm gonna play it either way. I got it on Game Pass, so. But it sounded very promising after we talked about it on that demo show we did a few weeks back. But yeah, that's it. That's my 4-player minute. Short and sweet. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week to do another show. I believe Ed's going to be joining us next week. We'll talk about probably It Takes Two and a few other things as well. So hopefully you'll join us for that. If you're interested in supporting us on Patreon, go to patreon.com/4player. You can, of course, watch us stream on Twitch as well. And, of course, we'd love to have you in our Discord at discord.gg/4player. But unless y'all have anything else you want to say in closing, we can wrap this up.
No, sir.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. Be safe. Be good to each other. Be nice. And wash your hands. Wash your hands. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.